Chapter 3862. In the blink of an eye, half a day passed. Feng Ho couldn't wait to announce that she was going into seclusion, because as long as she fused with this inheritance, she would be the #1 person in the Sky Cloud realm. At that time, the Dragon King, the Qilin Master, and the Feather Emperor would all have to be respectful to her. Who wouldn't be tempted by such a temptation? Moreover, in order to prevent anyone from ruining her plans, she also ordered Bing Changtian to secretly monitor Princess Huafeng and Daifuku, because the relationship between the two of them and Qin Feiyang and the others was too complicated. At that time, Daifuku revealed his unwillingness and anger. Therefore, it was very likely that the two of them would go to Qin Feiyang and the others for help. This was absolutely not allowed. She even ordered Bing Changtian to kill the two of them without mercy if they really did such a thing. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and the others had already explained the situation of the Skybell Divine treasure to the Feather Emperor and the others. Everyone was filled with emotions. They really didn't expect that in just 100 years, so many things would happen, especially Elder Hua and the others. After hearing about the terrifying level of the Skybell Divine treasure, they all rejoiced. Fortunately, they didn't insist on entering back then, because back then, they also had the idea of entering the Skybell Divine treasure, but Qin Feiyang persuaded them to go back. As for the Feather Emperor and the Little Rabbit, being able to befriend the Divine King of Primal Chaos and resolve the grudges of the past, as well as obtain so many law miniatures was undoubtedly the most perfect ending. Then how is your strength now? From what Li Feng said before, it seems that you are very powerful now. The Feather Emperor looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Me? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and waved his hand. I'm just like this, no progress. No progress? Who are you kidding? The Feather Emperor rolled his eyes. He had already obtained a Karma Law inheritance, and he still said that there was no progress? It's true. My strength didn't change much. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Is that so? The Feather Emperor and the Little Rabbit both looked at the Blood Ancestor and the others. Why was it so hard to believe this kid's words? Qin Feiyang glanced at the Blood Ancestor and the others and quietly gave them a meaningful glance. The few of them understood. The Blood Ancestor looked at the Feather Emperor and the Little Rabbit. He nodded and said, "His gains are indeed not great. Impossible." The Feather Emperor and the Little Rabbit still couldn't believe it. Forget it if you don't believe me. The Blood Ancestor couldn't be bothered to explain. They didn't mention anything about the law of life and death because they knew that Qin Feiyang was waiting for an opportunity to give these people, including the Dragon King and the others, a huge surprise. Even though my strength hasn't improved much, the old master's strength is incredible. Right now, he's already on par with the Dragon King and the others. Qin Feiyang smiled. Dragon King and the other two had mastered the 3 ultimate mysteries. 2 of them were ultimate profundities of supreme laws, and 1 was ultimate profundities of ordinary laws. The same was true for the Blood Ancestor. The law of slaughter, the law of death, and the law of time. The Feather Emperor looked at the Blood Ancestor, shook his head, and sighed. Right now, our enemy isn't the Dragon King and the others, but the experts of the Divine Kingdom. If what sister-in-law said is true, and the experts of the Divine Kingdom that appeared in the Sky Cloud realm last time were only the tip of the iceberg, then it's hard to imagine how big of a crisis we'll be facing this time. Hearing this, everyone's hearts couldn't help but sink. The Blood Ancestor pondered for a moment, then looked at the Princess of the Divine Kingdom and asked, "Sister-in-law, what was that sword light that suddenly appeared in the land of buried gods?" When Qin Feiyang and the others heard this, they all looked at the Princess of the Divine Kingdom. That sword light was extraordinarily powerful. It took more than 20 sovereign divine weapons to shatter it. The Princess of the Divine Kingdom was silent for a long time, then sighed and said, "I didn't want to tell you because it would put a lot of pressure on you, but if I don't tell you in advance, I'm afraid that you'll be careless." They heard about it. Everyone's hearts sank. It was definitely bad news. The Princess of the Divine Kingdom said, "This sword light came from my father's sovereign divine weapon." What? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. It came from a sovereign divine weapon? One had to know. A mid-level sovereign divine weapon required 10 low-level sovereign divine weapons to contend with it. And now, it was just a sword light, yet it required more than 20 sovereign divine weapons to contend with it. One could only imagine how terrifying the sovereign divine weapon of the Divine Kingdom's sovereign divine weapon was. Could it be a high-level sovereign divine weapon? The Blood Ancestor asked. The princess of the Divine Kingdom glanced at everyone and finally nodded. In an instant, the hall fell into a dead silence. Who would have thought that the Divine Kingdom would have such a terrifying divine weapon? In their eyes, a mid-level sovereign divine weapon was already in existence that was difficult to defeat, let alone a high-level sovereign divine weapon. His heart immediately became heavy. Elder Hua asked suspiciously, "Then why didn't the Divine Kingdom mobilize all of its forces last time?" The princess of the Divine Kingdom sighed. "Last time, it was just a training exercise for the younger generation of the Divine Kingdom." Training? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Yes. The creatures of the Divine Kingdom are all warlike races. When they discover a new civilization, they will send some of their young people to fight. It's tantamount to training these young people. The princess of the Divine Kingdom said, "Training? Harming so many innocent creatures is just a training exercise for them? What is this? Are the lives of so many living beings so worthless in their eyes?" Hearing this, not only Qin Feiyang and the other juniors, but even the Emperor of Feathers and the other seniors couldn't help but become angry. They really did view human lives as worthless. Although I live in the Divine Kingdom, I have always been prejudiced against the actions of the Divine Kingdom. I have advised my father more than once, because in their eyes, there is only war and plunder. The princess of the Divine Kingdom sighed faintly. Then what about this time? Are they going to slaughter all the creatures of the Skycloud realm? Bunny asked. I don't know. The princess of the Divine Kingdom shook her head. She really didn't know, because all these years, she had been sealed in the land of the buried gods and had no contact with the people of the Divine Kingdom. How could she know the plans of the Divine Kingdom's master? However, there was one thing she knew. Because of her betrayal, her father must be furious. This time, the Skycloud realm would fall into a real catastrophe. No, not only the Skycloud realm, but also the Nether King's Hell, the Ancient Realm, and the Great Qin Empire. If they couldn't stop the army of the Divine Kingdom in the Skycloud realm, these places would inevitably be affected. It's all my fault. If possible, I am willing to use my life in exchange for the peace of this world. Thinking of this, the princess of the Divine Kingdom couldn't help but blame herself and feel guilty. Sister-in-law, you don't need to blame yourself. You and Big Brother love each other. Neither of you are wrong. The one at fault is your father. He is too stubborn and too conceited. Although the purple gold divine dragon is noble, humans are also the leaders of all creatures. Why can't the purple gold divine dragon mate with us humans? The Feather Emperor was furious. This was clearly racial discrimination. Yes, don't think that this situation is because of you. Didn't you say that the Divine Kingdom is a warlike race? In their eyes, there is only war and plunder. So even if you and the human emperor didn't exist, the Divine Kingdom would still conquer the Skycloud realm. And now, it's not the time for anyone to blame anyone. We must unite and overcome this crisis together. The Blood Ancestor also comforted her. Thank you. The princess of the Divine Kingdom looked at the two with a trace of gratitude in her eyes. We are all family. Why are you thanking me? The Feather Emperor smiled and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. He asked suspiciously, Feiyang, that badge seems to be in Long Qin's hands. What's going on? At the mention of this matter, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile bitterly. What's wrong? The Feather Emperor became more and more suspicious. The Blood Ancestor shook his head and said, This badge has always been an Ice Dragon's blood contract. So that's how it is. The Feather Emperor suddenly understood. Hearing this, there was no need for a detailed explanation. He already understood. Ice Dragon's blood contract wasn't something they could erase, so they could only give it to Long Qin. Don't worry. Some things can't be forced. The Feather Emperor patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and comforted him. It's okay. I am a relatively optimistic person. Qin Feiyang smiled. If he really wanted to make a fuss about it, he wouldn't be sitting here so calmly. The blood ancestor turned to look at the princess of the divine kingdom and asked suspiciously, "Sister-in-law, what did that old man say? He is half your teacher. What's going on?" When I was young, he often taught me cultivation. Although I didn't formally acknowledge him as my teacher, I did treat him like one. The princess of the divine kingdom explained. I see. The blood ancestor nodded in understanding. Actually, he didn't undo the seal for my own good. The princess of the divine kingdom shook her head. For your own good? This confused Qin Feiyong and the others, because once the seal is undone, he will have to take me back to the divine kingdom. And he knows that when I return to the divine kingdom, I will definitely face the wrath of my father, the punishment of my clansmen, and the crusade of the people of the divine kingdom. At that time, I will definitely be in a situation where I will die. That's why he has been delaying and persuading me, hoping that I can cut off my relationship with you first before taking me back, because this way, he can plead for me in front of my father and my clansmen. The princess of the divine kingdom sighed. So that's how it is. Everyone nodded. I still say the same thing. Don't take all the responsibility. Although this is not your hometown, we are all family. Look at this kid. Didn't he keep your bloodline power? The Feather Emperor pointed at Qin Feiyong and smiled at the princess of the divine kingdom. The princess of the divine kingdom looked at Qin Feiyong with gratification in her eyes. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "Ancestor, it's not just me. There are many descendants of you and the human emperor in the Great Qin. And I'm not the only one who has undergone ancestral awakening." "You're not the only one?" The princess of the divine kingdom was stunned. "Yes. Apart from me and my ancestor, there is also a little brother. He has also undergone ancestral awakening and might have become the emperor of the Great Qin." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. This person was naturally Qin Haoyan. "I really want to go to the Great Qin to take a look." The princess of the divine kingdom smiled. "After we drive away the divine kingdom, I will take you back." Qin Feiyong smiled. "Okay." The princess of the divine kingdom nodded, full of expectation. Chapter 38-63. Qin Feiyong turned to the fire python and asked, "Brother Fire, you are now the guardian of the Nether King's hell. You control the power of laws here. If I want to go to the Black Tortoise world, can you help me? Because in the Nether King's hell, one couldn't enter the spatial divine object, nor could they enter the Black Tortoise world. And the creatures of the Sky Cloud world must have been sent to the spatial divine object by the Feather Emperor and the others before they evacuated. Because the Feather Emperor had been in the Nether King's hell for so many years, he knew the rules of the Nether King's hell. Although Qin Feiyong also grasped the ultimate meaning of the karma law, he could only interfere with the rules at most. He couldn't completely ignore the rules. Since he couldn't ignore the rules, he definitely needed the fire python's help. "I can help you, but..." The fire python hesitated. "Are you afraid that Ice Dragon and Small Beast will know?" Qin Feiyong asked.
Yes.
"You also know Ice Dragon and Small Beast's attitude towards you. What if they are watching us from somewhere? If I help you, I'm afraid that not only me, but you will also be implicated." Its authority as a guardian was given by Small Beast. Small Beast could take it back at any time. It didn't even have the power to resist. Qin Feiyong looked at the Feather Emperor and the little rabbit and said, "If that's the case, then we have to hurry back to the Sky Cloud world." "Why?" The Feather Emperor and the little rabbit were suspicious. "Because I left those miniature laws in the castle. And now, the enemy is in front of us. We have to let everyone around us fuse with the miniature laws and increase their strength." Qin Feiyong frowned. The rules here were really troublesome. Li Feng pondered for a while and looked at Qin Feiyong. "Qin Dage, maybe Ice Dragon and Small Beast won't care about us now?" "Why do you say that?" Qin Feiyong was stunned and looked at Li Feng suspiciously. "Because of Long Chun. Before the Skybell Divine Treasure appeared, didn't Long Chun tell you that a catastrophe might befall us in the future? This calamity concerns every single one of us. Furthermore, I'd like to ask you, if this calamity truly descends, what will you choose?" From Long Chin's attitude, it's not hard to tell that Ice Dragon and Small Beast should have known about the existence of the Divine Kingdom and that the Divine Kingdom would make a comeback. Let's talk about Ice Dragon's strength. With his strength, he could have kept Long Chen out of this, but Ice Dragon didn't do that. That's why I'm guessing that there must be a problem here. However, Li Feng couldn't figure out what the problem was. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded and murmured. He lowered his head and pondered. Suddenly, a trace of surprise crept into his eyes. He looked at the crowd and asked, "Do you think it's possible?" Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang. Actually, Ice Dragon and Small Beast don't like the Divine Kingdom either. In other words, the Divine Kingdom might be their enemy. That's why Long Chen wants to join forces with me to deal with the Divine Kingdom. And the last time I saw Ice Dragon in the Sky Cloud realm, his attitude towards me seemed to have changed. Could it have something to do with the arrival of the Divine Kingdom? There's one more thing. It's impossible that Ice Dragon and Small Beast don't know about the changes in the Sky Cloud realm. Not long ago, when Long Chen got the badge and wanted to erase the blood contract, Ice Dragon must have known what we were going to do. But at that time, he didn't stop us. Instead, he took the initiative to dissolve the blood contract, allowing Long Chen to control the badge. Does Ice Dragon's behavior mean that he acquiesced? Qin Feiyang analyzed the situation one by one. In the end, the more he thought about it, the more likely it was. The enemy of Ice Dragon and Small Beast? If that's the case, then the Divine Kingdom isn't as simple as what my sister-in-law said. Because behind Ice Dragon and Small Beast, there's the God of Creation. How powerful is the God of Creation? How could he tolerate the Divine Kingdom running amok in his world? The Feather Emperor was surprised and couldn't help but turn his head to look at the Princess of the Divine Kingdom. The Princess of the Divine Kingdom was silent for a while. Then she shook her head and said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I guess you'll have to ask my father." The Blood Ancestor thought for a while and waved his hand. "Let's not scare ourselves here. Maybe Small Beast and Ice Dragon are too lazy to take action and want to give us a chance to gain experience and perform." Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't help but smile bitterly. Now, they were indeed scaring themselves. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said, "Let's not talk about this for now. Let's find Long Chen and prepare to fight our way back to the Sky Cloud realm." Actually, there's no need to find Long Chen. There's no need to trouble the Fire Python. I can let you go to the Black Tortoise realm. The Feather Emperor smiled. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. If the Feather Emperor could let him go to the Black Tortoise realm, did that mean he could completely ignore the rules of hell? Actually, I have a secret. Even people like the Dragon King don't know about it. The only people who know about it are the Blood Ancestor, Little Rabbit, Big Brother, and sister-in-law. The Feather Emperor smiled mysteriously. What secret? Qin Feiyang was surprised. The Feather Emperor waved his hand. Accompanied by a divine light, a golden badge appeared. "This is..." Qin Feiyang and the others stood up and stared at the badge in disbelief. This badge was exactly the same as Long Chen's badge. The only difference was that the pattern on it was different. The pattern on Long Chen's badge was a divine dragon. However, the emblem had the word God on it. You're surprised, aren't you? This badge is different from Long Chen's badge, but the ability is the same. The Feather Emperor looked at Qin Feiyang and laughed. The ability is the same. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. In other words, this badge could also ignore the rules? Didn't you ask me before why I could send Qin Batian and the others directly to the ancient world? The reason is because of this thing, the Feather Emperor said. I see. Then, where did you get this badge? Qin Feiyang was surprised. The Feather Emperor looked at the Princess of the Divine Kingdom. Qin Feiyang was slightly surprised. He couldn't help but look at the Princess of the Divine Kingdom and ask carefully, "Is it yours?" "It's mine." The Princess of the Divine Kingdom nodded and smiled. Qin Feiyang was stunned. When we were attacked by the Dragon King, we knew that the Dragon King wouldn't let us go easily. We also knew that if we wanted to survive in the Nether King's hell, we had to solve the rules here first. So, at that time, sister-in-law gave this badge to me, the Feather Emperor explained. Qin Feiyang looked at the Princess of the Divine Kingdom and asked, "Did you bring this badge from the Divine Kingdom?" Of course. The Princess of the Divine Kingdom nodded. That's great news, Lin Feng said with a smile. Qin Feiyang was pleasantly surprised. With this badge, he didn't need to look for Long Chen anymore. Although they were in a cooperative relationship now, whether it was Long Chen or Qin Feiyang, they didn't want to be too involved with each other. Since you have this badge, why didn't you go to the Sky Cloud realm to pick us up? Why did you let us come to the Nether King's hell by ourselves? Li Feng looked at the Feather Emperor and the little rabbit with dissatisfaction. Kid, you don't know shit. The Divine Kingdom has already arrived. Would they dare to go to the Sky Cloud realm? Besides, they don't know when we came out of the Skybell Divine Treasury and hid in the Sky Cloud realm. If we were discovered, wouldn't we be in danger? The Blood Ancestor patted Li Feng's head and glared at him. That's right. At this time, we can't do anything risky. Besides, we all know that you have a badge and have already told sister-in-law in advance. Why would we go to the Sky Cloud realm? The Feather Emperor said. Well, anyway, you are seniors. What you said is reasonable. Li Feng pursed his lips. You're still not convinced? The Blood Ancestor frowned. How would I dare? Li Feng shrunk his neck. His aggrieved look was funny. In that case, there's no hurry to go back to the Sky Cloud realm. Let's go to the Black Tortoise realm first. Qin Feiyang looked at everyone and smiled. This way, even if the small beast and the ice dragon knew, they wouldn't blame the fire python. Everyone nodded. Their eyes were full of expectation. What kind of scene would it be to see hundreds of thousands of Dao Laws, especially the little rabbit and the Feather Emperor? Because Elder Hua and the others didn't know much about the Dao Laws. But the little rabbit and the Feather Emperor knew the meaning of the Dao Laws better than anyone. Every Dao Law miniature was a priceless treasure to the Sky Cloud realm. The Black Tortoise realm. The Madman and the White-Eyed Wolf were working hard to integrate the Dao Laws. The Raging Flame Magic Sword had already entered the Land of Origin. With everyone's appearance, the deserted Devil's Land became lively. There were many people here, including the little rabbit, who had never been to the Black Tortoise realm before. So when they first arrived at the Black Tortoise realm, their faces were full of surprise. As for Elder Hua and the others, they were already familiar with the Black Tortoise realm. However, looking at the Black Tortoise realm many years later, they couldn't help but feel shocked. Compared to the past, the current Black Tortoise realm was much bigger. Especially the Spirit Vein and Crystal Vein here, they didn't know what level they had grown to. It was like an immortal palace. Feel free to look around. Qin Feiyang left behind a sentence and quickly entered the ancient castle. He opened the iron box and took out the interspatial ring with the Dao Laws. This is the hope of the Sky Cloud realm. Qin Feiyang looked down at the interspatial ring and muttered in a low voice. He turned around and walked out of the ancient castle. He rushed in front of the Feather Emperor and the little rabbit and handed the interspatial ring to the Feather Emperor. If they didn't look, they wouldn't know. With one look, the Feather Emperor and the little rabbit were stunned. This was too much. Compared to the Dao Laws they had obtained in the Skybell Divine Treasure, it was completely different. Moreover, before entering the Skybell Divine Treasure, they didn't expect Qin Feiyang and the others to bring back many Dao Laws. Because they knew the situation of the Skybell Divine Treasure, it was enough to keep their lives and come back alive. But they never expected that in the end, they would bring back so many Dao Laws. What was a divine treasure? This was a divine treasure. With these Dao Laws, the future Sky Cloud realm would definitely undergo earth-shaking changes. Chapter 3864. Feather Emperor came back to his senses and looked at Qin Feiyang, asking, how many exactly? According to Qiao Shui, there are more than 320,000 miniatures. Among them, there are more than 30,000 miniatures of the strongest laws. The rest are all miniatures of ordinary laws. Qin Feiyang explained, there are so many miniatures of the strongest laws? Little Rabbit grabbed the interspatial ring, not wanting to return it to Qin Feiyang. Feather Emperor looked at Little Rabbit and said with a smile, now you have to admit that the student has surpassed the master. I was just lucky. Little Rabbit pouted and threw the interspatial ring to Qin Feiyang, saying, where is the place where you brew the divine wine? Qin Feiyang was stunned. With so many miniatures of laws in front of him, wasn't it tempting? He was still thinking about the divine wine. What a complete drunkard. However, he didn't dare to let Little Rabbit look for Zhao Si. Because with Little Rabbit's personality, once he saw Zhao Si and found the wine cellar, he would definitely take all the divine wine. Pei Dason, Qin Feiyong called out. Whoosh! A figure tore through the air like lightning. It was Pei Dason. Seeing so many big shots, he was a little nervous. Qin Feiyong said, "Go find Zhao Si and get more divine wine." How much is more? Pei Dason was suspicious. All of it. Little Rabbit spoke, giving Pei Dason a fright. Don't listen to it. You have to listen to it. It can't wait to take Zhao Si and the others away. Just take 5,000 to 6,000 jars. Also, prepare some for the Beast Emperors. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at Little Rabbit and looked at Pei Dason. Okay. Pei Dason responded respectfully, turned around, and tore through the air like lightning. Elder Hua glanced at Pei Dason and said with a smile, "I didn't expect that even this person has been subdued by you. After all, this is my territory. Besides, I have so many tempting things here. How can he not be obedient?" Qin Feiyong smiled and glanced at Elder Hua and the others. He said, "None of us are outsiders. Feel free to take whatever law fragments you need." What's so special about this miniature of laws? Some people were doubtful. Although he had heard about it, he wasn't too sure about it. The Feather Emperor looked at the crowd and explained, "The law miniatures are the key to opening the ultimate door. In other words, as long as you fuse with the corresponding law miniatures, you will be able to open the door to the ultimate meaning. As long as you work hard, you will be able to comprehend the ultimate meaning sooner or later. Furthermore, after fusing with the miniature of the laws, I'll be able to comprehend the ultimate profound in the shortest amount of time. It's not an exaggeration to say that it can increase the speed by tens of times." Qin Feiyong added. The people standing in front of him were all people who were on very good terms with him. The three heads of the Demon Palace, the three giants of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, as well as the Shin Meng couple, the three heads of the Sky Palace. There was also He Zhongtian from the Divine Hall. Each of these people had already opened the door to potential. After fusing with the miniature of the laws, their strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. After hearing Qin Feiyong and the Feather Emperor's explanation, the group was instantly excited. They hadn't been idle all these years. The Feather Emperor and Little Rabbit had also taken good care of them. They had set up the law of time for 1 day and 5,000 years. For example, Elder Hua had already comprehended 3 types of ultimate meaning. They remembered that in the beginning, Elder Hua had only grasped one type of ultimate meaning. This was the advantage of opening the door to potential. The speed of comprehending the ultimate meaning was countless times faster than ordinary people. Qin Feiyong then looked at the Little Rabbit and said with a smile, "Big brother, call everyone out?" "Sure. You're rich now. If you let them continue to stay with me, you'll be hindering their future." The Little Rabbit said with a grunt, "You can't say that. If it weren't for your careful guidance, would they have their current achievements?" Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly. "Don't flatter me. Although Uncle Rabbit did contribute, it's because they were willing to work hard. Anyway, my mission has been completed. Next, it's up to you." Little Rabbit waved its paw. In the void behind it, a group of people appeared. They were the Mermaid Princess, Pei Tianhong, Ancestor Mo, Wang Xiaojia, and the 6,000 secret guards. "Feiyong, Master, young Master." Once everyone appeared, they immediately looked at Qin Feiyong. The Mermaid Princess directly pounced into Qin Feiyong's arms. Good, good, good. Qin Feiyong nodded. All of them were in a sorry state. Some of them were even covered in dust. However, the aura and temperament they exuded were completely different from before. Wang Xiaojia, Qin Qin, Long Tianyu, and the other juniors had already stepped into the Perfection Sovereign realm. They were less childish and had more stability and sharpness. Little Rabbit scanned everyone and chuckled. "Release your law aura and let him take a look." Boom. Immediately, the power of law aura emerged. Qin Feiyong was shocked. Almost everyone had already grasped 2 or 3 supreme profound meanings. Ancestor Mo, Mu Tianyang, Mu Qing, and Dong Jingyang were even more exaggerated. They had already comprehended 3 or 4 supreme profound meanings. This was Little Rabbit's ability? That was too terrifying. How is it? I didn't disappoint you, right? Little Rabbit looked at Qin Feiyong and smiled proudly. Look at what you're saying. Even if I'm disappointed, can I blame you? Qin Feiyong bared his teeth. At least you have some conscience. No matter what, Uncle Rabbit is finally free. All of you continue to work hard in the future. Little Rabbit looked at the group of people and said indifferently, and everyone nodded. Although these years of bitter cultivation were tough and Little Rabbit's methods were ruthless, not letting them have a good day, they all felt that it was worth it. Ziang? Yun Zhongtian suddenly looked at Yun Ziang in the crowd, and a look of surprise crept onto his face. Yun Ziang was actually looking for Yun Zhongtian as well, so when he heard Yun Zhongtian's voice, he immediately looked towards the direction of the voice and his eyes were filled with joy. But when he walked in front of Yun Zhongtian, a sense of self-blame and guilt rose as he lowered his head and said, I'm sorry. Ziang is unfilial. I haven't come home to visit you all for so many years. It's all right. Yun Zhongtian shook his head and reached out to touch Yun Ziang's head. In the end, he realized that Yun Ziang was now taller than him and was no longer the youth from back then. Finally, he patted Yun Ziang's shoulder and said, It's all over now. Come back with me later. Your father and brother have missed you all these years. And Yun Ziang nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. All right. All of you go find the law epitome that you need and go into seclusion. The real battle has yet to begin, and we can't let our guard down. I have to go into seclusion as well. Brother Fire, old ancestor, do as you wish. Qin Feiyong looked at Feather Emperor, Fire Python, and the princess of the Divine Kingdom and smiled. Then, he hugged the mermaid princess and headed home. Going into seclusion? It's obvious that he's going in a hurry. Young people these days. Feather Emperor shook his head. Weren't you young once too? Little Rabbit said in disdain. Feather Emperor raised his eyebrows and said angrily, Do you feel uncomfortable if you don't bicker with me for a day? Who's bickering with you? Little Rabbit snorted coldly and stared at Qin Feiyong's back as she shouted, Third brother, you're not young anymore. Hurry up and work hard to give birth to a fat little boy for this old ancestor of yours. Otherwise, you'll always go against Uncle Rabbit. Qin Feiyong's body stiffened. The mermaid princess's face turned red. You talk too much? Qin Feiyong turned his head and glared fiercely at the little rabbit. Then, he took the mermaid princess and ran into the loft. Wait, where's little crazy? All of a sudden, a suspicious voice could be heard. It was Zhuo Xiaoxian. Even though she was not fond of cultivating, she had already achieved the peak ruler realm under Little Rabbit's guidance. You must be sister. Li Feng went up to Zhuo Xiaoxian. Zhuo Xiaoxian blushed. Sigh. Sister, I'm sorry. We didn't protect Brother Crazy. He's all ready. Li Feng let out a sigh and squeezed out 2 drops of tears as he spoke in a sorrowful tone. What happened to him? Zhuo Xiaoxian's face turned pale as her body began to tremble. Li Feng wore a heartbroken look. The blood ancestor's face darkened upon seeing this. He immediately gave Li Feng a knock on the head. Zhuo Xiaoxian then said, Don't listen to him. Little Crazy is fine now. He's in seclusion in the castle, trying to merge the succession. Zhuo Xiaoxian immediately ran toward the castle. Is it fun? The blood ancestor glared at Li Feng. I just want to test his feelings for Brother Crazy. Li Feng smiled flatteringly. The blood ancestor rolled his eyes and scanned the crowd as if he was looking for something. Finally, when he saw Long Tianyu, a hint of a smile flashed across his eyes. He looked at the crowd and said, Hurry up and get the epitome of the laws you need. In the attic, after a long separation, the fire burned like dry wood. After a long time, Qin Feiyong was lying on the bed with the mermaid princess in his arms, enjoying this rare peace. Suddenly, the mermaid princess looked up at Qin Feiyong and said, Why don't we have a child? Huh. Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned. He lowered his head and looked at the mermaid princess. For a moment, he was caught off guard. I know. You don't want to have a child now because it will be a burden to you. However, a family without a child, No matter what others think, in my opinion, it's incomplete. The mermaid princess muttered. What are you thinking about? How can a child be a burden? I'm afraid that if I give birth now, I won't be able to take good care of him. I might even implicate him. You know that I have too many things to face. If I'm not careful, I might even lose my life. How can I protect him? Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. I can take care of him, the mermaid princess hurriedly said. Qin Feiyong looked at his wife in astonishment. He didn't realize before that this little girl actually wanted a child so much. But thinking about it, it made sense. Most women, after finding someone to belong to, would yearn for a crystallization of love. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyong's naughty hands hugged the mermaid princess and said with a smile, How about this? When the matters in the divine kingdom are over, we'll return to the great Qin and live a peaceful life. At that time, you can have as many children as you want, even if it's dozens. Dozens? The mermaid princess blushed and said angrily, What do you take me for? Hee hee. Qin Feiyong snickered and dove back into the quilt to engage in a fierce battle. Ah, he's quite energetic. Chapter 3865. 2 days later. In the 2 days outside, 10,000 years had passed in the Black Tortoise world. Everyone was in seclusion, fusing with their own laws. Even the Feather Emperor had taken away 3 laws. Compared to the Feng people, the dragons and Qilins were much calmer. Although Long Chun had obtained 2 inheritances, namely the law of slaughter and the law of space-time, with Long Chen's status, the Dragon King would not dare to snatch them from him. Qi Shaoyun had also obtained an inheritance of the law of destruction, but he had already fused with it in the Sky Bell Divine Treasury. Thus, even if the Qilins coveted it, they would not have a chance. However, although the Dragon King and the Qilin Master did not obtain inheritances like Feng Ho, they still obtained many laws and sovereigns. Long Chen and Qi Shaoyun had found these laws and sovereigns in the Sky Bell Divine Treasury later on. However, nobody knew the exact number of laws and sovereigns. But it was not hard to imagine that Long Chun had obtained more than Qi Shaoyun. Although Qi Shaoyun was also in control of the Qilin race's sovereign weapon, Long Chun had the Heavenly God Sword. After all, Long Qin had already swept through the Heaven Bell Divine Treasury before encountering the bloodthirsty Devil King and the others. Of course, no matter how much they obtained, they would not be able to compare to Qin Feiyong. Moreover, they had also told the Dragon King and the Qilin Master about Qin Feiyong's actions in the Primal Chaos Royal City. When the two heard this, they had mixed feelings. Why was this kid so outstanding? No matter where he went, he would be able to make a name for himself? He was even able to establish a relationship with the Primal Chaos Divine King? Who was the Primal Chaos Divine King? She was the ruler of the Sky Bell Divine Treasury and possessed great authority. How could one not gain benefits by establishing a relationship with her? Although Long Chen and Qi Shaoyun did not know how many laws and sovereigns Qin Feiyong had obtained in the Primal Chaos Royal City, they could imagine that it would be an astonishing number. After all, nothing was more important than the undead breakthrough pill in the Sky Bell Divine Treasury. For now, both the Dragon King and the Qilin Master were somewhat regretful. Why couldn't he bear it for a while? Why did he have to shed all pretense of cordiality with Qin Feiyong? Otherwise, Qin Feiyong might have even given them some of his law miniatures. As for the Feng people, originally, Princess Huafeng still had some law miniatures on her body. She, the white-eyed wolf, Long Chun, the masked Shura, the Sea Lion King, and the others had collected them on their way to the exit. The harvest was not bad either. There were dozens of miniatures in total. Under the care of the white-eyed wolf, she alone obtained more than 10 miniature shadows. She had originally intended to hand over these 10 miniatures to Feng Ho. However, she didn't expect Feng Ho to snatch the inheritance that Daifuku had left for her. She even wanted her to hand over the Frost Sparrow Sword and Phoenix Bell. Furthermore, whether it was her grandfather, Hua Dahong, or her rival, Bing Changtian, or those elders, she was extremely disappointed with what they had done. Therefore, she did not hand them over. In the cave abode, Princess Huafeng had been staying in the cave abode for the past 2 days without saying a word. She looked extremely haggard. Even when the Fire Feng people looked at her and comforted her, She acted as if she didn't hear them. This made the Fire Feng people's heart ache. She used to be such a cheerful child, but now she had become like this. If it was because of outsiders, he could still understand. However, all of this was because of Feng Ho, because of his clansmen. Child, I'm sorry. Father is incompetent. I don't even have the courage to fight for you. Yes, he blamed himself. Not to mention the sovereign divine weapon, that inheritance was obviously left to his daughter by Daifuku. However, in the face of Feng Ho and his clansmen, he didn't even have the courage to fight for it. He could only let his daughter suffer this grievance silently. In fact, he also wanted to go and reason with Feng Ho several times. But before he could walk out of the cave abode, he couldn't help but feel afraid. He hated himself for being weak. He hated himself for being incompetent. If he could be stronger and braver, his daughter might not have suffered this grievance. And Daifuku, he had been staying by Princess Wuffeng's side. Looking at the sullen Firewind First Princess, his heart hurt more than anyone else's. Although he was a follower, he had watched Princess Wuffeng grow up since she was a child. Princess Wuffeng treated him as a family member. He also took care of Princess Wuffeng as his own granddaughter. Now that Princess Wuffeng was treated like this by Feng Ho and his clansmen, he hated her more than anyone else in his heart. Even, he wanted to go and find Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf. That's right. He was unwilling to accept this. However, he found that Bing Changtian was actually spying on them in the dark. There was no doubt that this must have been arranged by Feng Ho. While he was angry, he was also disappointed. Not only did he take away their inheritance, but he also asked someone to spy on them. What did he think they were? Prisoners? He couldn't be so excessive. After all, they had made great contributions in the heavenly bell divine treasure. Because if it weren't for him and Princess Wuffeng, not to mention the inheritance of the law of cause and effect, not to mention the Frost Sparrow Sword and the Phoenix Bell, even the Fire Phoenix Sword and the other Dominator divine weapons would have all fallen into Qin Feiyong's hands. Anyone with a bit of conscience wouldn't treat them like this. Another 2 days passed. The Fire Feng people came to the cave abode again. Looking at his daughter who was still sitting in the cave abode without saying a word, his heart felt as if it was blocked by a big stone. Patriarch, I don't accept this. They can't treat Her Highness like this. Why don't you think of a way to inform Qin Feiyong and the Golden-Winged Wolf King? They will definitely come to seek justice for Her Highness. Daifuku clenched his hands tightly, looking at the Fire Feng people secretly transmitting his voice, his brows full of hostility. Inform Qin Feiyong and the Golden-Winged Wolf King. The Fire Feng people's body stiffened. Daifuku actually had such a terrifying thought. If Feng Ho knew about this, it would be difficult for him to escape death. Patriarch, I don't want to hide it from you anymore. The princess and the Golden-Winged Wolf King have already gotten together. Daifuku gritted his teeth and transmitted his voice to the Fire Feng people. What? The Fire Feng people's eyes trembled. Daifuku secretly said, Don't misunderstand. The Golden-Winged Wolf King did not force the princess. They are in love with each other. In love with each other, the Fire Feng people murmured. He really didn't expect the situation to develop to this point. Falling in love with the Golden-Winged Wolf King. If this was known by Feng Ho and the Patriarch, wouldn't they be furious on the spot? People like Bing Changtian would be able to confidently say that Wu had colluded with Qin Feiyong and others. Patriarch, I know what you're thinking. In fact, at first, I was very worried because I was afraid that Qin Feiyong and others would take advantage of the princess. But over the years, when I got along with Qin Feiyong and others, I found that they are not such people at all. Instead of taking advantage of us, they are always considerate of us. And the Golden-Winged Wolf King also dotes on the princess and doesn't want her to be wronged at all. Patriarch, I don't care what others think. I just want to know what you think. Because you are the princess's father, no one loves her more than you. If the princess and the Golden-Winged Wolf King insist on being together, what will you do? Daifuku secretly asked. At this moment, the Fire Feng people's heart was in a mess. He looked at Princess Wuffeng, who was sitting inside, and then looked at Daifuku, who was looking forward to it. He knew Daifuku would not object. He even caught a trace of hatred in Daifuku's eyes. This was hatred for Feng Ho and his clansmen. "Sister, are you there?" Suddenly, a laugh rang out. Daifuku and the Fire Feng people's eyes suddenly turned cold. They looked up at the door of the cave residence and saw a snow-white figure landing outside the cave residence. It was Bing Runing. After many years, her physical body had been rebuilt. At this moment, she looked inside the cave residence. When she saw the Fire Feng people, she laughed and said, "Uncle is also here. What are you doing here?" The Fire Feng people frowned. "Uncle, I grew up with my sister, and we are like sisters. Now that she has returned from the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure, as her sister, of course I have to come to visit her." After Bing Runing finished speaking, she directly entered the cave residence without the consent of Daifuku and the Fire God. The Fire Feng people and Daifuku couldn't help but frown. "Visit? Put away your hypocrisy and false feelings." Not only would this face not make people grateful, but it would make people disgusted. Daifuku stepped in front of Bing Runing and said lightly, "The princess needs to rest. Please leave." Bing Runing raised her eyebrows and looked at the Fire Feng people, saying, "Uncle, now a random follower of your Fire Phoenix clan dares to order me around?" Daifuku, step back. She is the princess of the Ice Phoenix clan. The Fire Feng people waved his hand. Daifuku clenched his hands and retreated to the side. Bing Runing looked at Daifuku disdainfully, then looked at the Fire Feng people and laughed. "Uncle is reasonable. What's the matter? If there's nothing, don't disturb Wu Er's rest." The Fiery Phoenix Patriarch asked calmly, "Uncle, I'm concerned about my sister. How is this disturbing?" Bing Runing shook her head sadly and directly walked past the Fire Feng people. She walked to the opposite side of Princess Huofeng and sighed, "Sister, I haven't seen you for a long time. Look at you. You have lost weight." Princess Huofeng finally reacted. She raised her head and looked at Bing Ruoning. She could clearly see a trace of mockery in Bing Ruoning's eyes, but she ignored it and said indifferently, "Defu, see the guest out, please." Daifuku immediately stepped forward and pointed outside the cave residence, looking at Bing Runing expressionlessly. Good people don't have good karma." Bing Runing shook her head and sighed. She turned around and walked out of the cave residence. But after a few steps, she suddenly stopped and looked at Princess Huofeng with a smile. "Sister, you recognize this sovereign divine weapon, right?" As soon as she finished speaking, a long sword appeared. It was the Ice Sparrow Sword. "Why is the Ice Sparrow Sword in your hands?" Daifuku immediately said angrily. "Wasn't it given to Feng Ho? Why is it in this woman's hands? Didn't I lose the Ice Phoenix Sword in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure? So Lord Feng Ho gave the Ice Sparrow Sword to my father as compensation for the loss of the Ice Phoenix clan. And my father gave the Ice Sparrow Sword to me." Bing Runing chuckled. Her words were full of mockery. She meant, "See, I lost the Ice Phoenix Sword, but not only was I not punished by Feng Ho, I even received a sovereign divine weapon. But what about you? You fought so hard in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, but in the end, you didn't get anything and ended up in such a sorry state. You must feel terrible." Chapter 3866. Don't go too far. Daifuku growled. He was on the verge of going berserk. He was already furious. Now, Bing Runing deliberately came to show off. The most important thing was, they worked so hard to get the sovereign divine weapon, but Feng Ho gave it to Bing Changtian and now it fell into Bing Runing's hands. That's right. He was just unhappy. What did Bing Runing contribute to the Heavenly Bell Divine Treasure? Nothing. Not only did she not contribute, but she also lost the Ice Phoenix Sword. Looking at him and Princess Huofeng, not only did they bring back an inheritance, but they also got the Ice Sparrow Sword and the Phoenix Bell, making up for the losses Bing Runing caused to the Feng people. Even the reason why Qin Feiyang didn't take the Fire Phoenix Sword and the other 9 sovereign divine weapons was because he was giving them face. Such a great contribution, but not only was the inheritance stolen, but she was also locked up here like a prisoner. Why? The more Daifuku thought about it, the angrier he became. What fairness was there to speak of? At this moment, The Fire Feng people was also burning with anger, because in his heart, he was also indignant. His daughter had been sensible and obedient since she was young. She always looked at the big picture in everything she did. Even if he was right, she had always been tolerant. For the Feng people, it could be said that this daughter had sacrificed too much. But what did she get in return? It was injustice, humiliation, and trampling. He was not convinced. Get lost. Get lost right now. The Fire Feng people stared at Bing Runing with red eyes and roared. Looking at the two furious people, Bing Runing did not take it to heart. She looked at Princess Wuffing and smiled. Sister, have a good rest and take care of yourself. After all, you are the future hope of the Feng people. Everyone has high hopes for you. After saying that, she put away the Ice Sparrow sword and turned to leave. From the beginning to the end, the Ice Sparrow sword did not speak. It watched this scene coldly. It wanted Princess Wuffing to experience the fickleness of human nature and the fickleness of the world. It wanted her to see the ugly faces of these people. Because in this world, not everyone could use sincerity and tolerance in exchange for the respect of others. In short, the Frost Sparrow sword was watching from the sidelines. It was telling Princess Wuffing that the more you tolerate some people, the more arrogant they become. Moreover, in this world, as long as it was related to benefits, there would be no fairness. You want fairness? Fine. Fight for it yourself. Others will not help you, nor will they sympathize with you. Instead, they will hit you when you are down and take the opportunity to ruthlessly trample on your dignity. Anyway, if he wasn't strong enough, then he couldn't blame his opponent for being merciless. Now look at Princess Wuffing. She sat on the stone bench with her head lowered. Her expression was filled with disappointment and self-mockery. Even so, she still couldn't awaken the conscience of Feng Ho and her clansmen. Since that was the case, what was there to be reluctant about? Just as Bing Runing was about to walk out of the cave, Princess Wuffing slowly raised her head and looked at the Fire Feng people and Daifuku. The Fire Feng people's chief, wanted to comfort him, but he didn't know what to say. However, Daifuku saw a different color in Princess Wuffing's eyes. A trace of a smile could not help but crawl onto his aged face. He knew. This princess had awakened. At the same time, a smile also appeared on Princess Wuffing's face. Yes, blindly enduring would only make her seem weaker. Since sincerity couldn't be exchanged for respect, then she would fight for it herself. Swish. Immediately, she suddenly stood up, and a fierce aura spread out. Bing Runing was shocked. She quickly turned to Princess Wuffing and found that the haggard and sad look on Princess Wuffing's face had disappeared. In fact, Bing Runing even had an illusion. It was as if an empress was awakening in front of her, and a sense of fear rose in her heart uncontrollably. The Fire Feng people's chief, also stared blankly at Princess Wuffing. Suddenly, the daughter he had watched grow up seemed to have become a different person, a little strange. Even he felt a great pressure from Princess Wuffing. Father, leave everything to me. Princess Wuffing smiled at the Fire Feng people's chief and looked up at Bing Runing. At this time, her face was glowing, and her eyes were full of spirit. There was an unprecedented confidence between her eyebrows. Suddenly, she took a step forward. Step by step, she walked towards Bing Runing. Seeing this, Bing Runing suddenly looked a little flustered. What do you want to do? She tried to calm herself down as she retreated. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't suppress the panic in her heart and the fear on her face. I've been giving in to you since we were young. I still remember that when we were young, Daifuku and Xiaofu saw that I was bored, so they made a wooden horse for me to ride. At that time, when you saw the wooden horse, you insisted on asking me for it. I was really reluctant to give it up, but Father asked me to give it to you. Okay, I'll give it to you. If worst comes to worst, I'll ask Daifuku to make another one. I don't know if you still remember what happened later, but I've never forgotten it. I was kind enough to let you have the wooden horse, but you accidentally fell down. But your father, Bing Changtian, came and scolded me, saying that I shouldn't have given this rubbish to you to play with. Do you know how wronged I was at that time? Princess Wuffing said slowly, with a smile on her face. At this time, Bing Runing had already left the cave residence, and the panic on her face was even stronger. Bing Changtian, who was hiding in the dark, saw Bing Runing's expression and couldn't help but feel a little suspicious. But when he saw Princess Huafeng, the Fire Feng people's chief, and Daifuku coming out of the cave residence together, especially when he saw Princess Huafeng's aggressive aura, his face suddenly changed. He quickly ran out, stood in front of Bing Runing, and shouted, "What do you want to do? You want to bully my daughter with your numbers?" Seeing Bing Changtian, Bing Runing couldn't help but feel relieved, and her mind calmed down. Princess Huafeng glanced at Bing Changtian, then looked at Bing Runing and continued, "See? This is your father's face. No matter what happens, he will not ask who is right or wrong first. He will blame me as soon as he comes, thinking that I must be the one bullying you." "What did you say? How dare you talk to your elders like this? Do you have any manners?" Bing Changtian was furious, but Princess Huafeng turned a deaf ear to him, and her face was full of disgust. She looked at Bing Runing and continued, "There are too many things like this, but they are all trivial. I don't want to bother with you. Because since I was young, Father, Daifuku, and Xiaofu taught me that as the princess of the Fire Phoenix clan, I can't be willful. No matter what I do, I have to put the interests of the Feng people and the safety of my clan first. So even when you tried to kill me in the Death Glacier, I didn't really care about it. I didn't even mention it again. But what about you? What did you do to repay me? You schemed to hurt me and humiliated me whenever you had the chance. You even called me sister. Don't you feel disgusted when you hear it?" Princess Huafeng's aura was getting fiercer. The other cave dwellers of the Feng people were also nearby. When they sensed Princess Huafeng's aura, they all ran out in surprise. "Wooer, what are you doing? Who let you come out? Haven't you had enough? Go back and reflect on your mistakes." Hua Dahong shouted. "Did I do anything wrong? If so, may I ask my beloved grandfather, what did I do wrong? Why do I need to reflect on my mistakes?" Princess Huafeng looked at Hua Dahong and said lightly. Hua Dahong said in a deep voice, "You colluded with Qin Feiyang. Isn't that wrong?" "Colluded with Qin Feiyang," Princess Huafeng murmured. Even now, he was still slandering her, and the person slandering her was her own grandfather. She couldn't help but laugh at herself. Was this the family she had been protecting? How ridiculous. "What are you doing? Hurry up and take her in. Do you want to mess around with her?" Hua Dahong looked at the Huafeng people and shouted. But this time, the Huafeng people didn't listen to his biological father anymore. If Bing Runing hadn't come, he might have persuaded Princess Huafeng. But now, he couldn't see fairness and hope in the Feng people. This was a group of selfish people. Moreover, if he still blamed his daughter at this time, then his daughter would really be in despair. Good. All of you are unfilial." Hua Dahong was furious. Bing Runing looked at all this with murderous intent in her eyes. She felt wronged and said, "Elders, ancestors, I came to visit my sister out of kindness, but I didn't expect her to kill me." "What?" The group of elders were also furious. They glared at Princess Huafeng and shouted, "You even dare to kill your own clansmen. It seems like you've really grown up and can be lawless. This matter must be severely punished. Kneel down and admit your wrongs. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." "Can you be reasonable?" Daifuku couldn't help but shout when he heard this. "Daifuku!" Princess Huafeng stopped Daifuku and glanced at the elders and reclusive elders. She smiled and said, "I really want to laugh. When Bing Runing tried to kill me, why didn't I see you all so indignant? Is my life really so worthless? Aren't you still alive?" A reclusive elder of the Ice Phoenix clan said in a deep voice, "This makes me want to laugh even more. I'm not dead, so you can ignore Bing Runing's mistake?" Even when Qi Xiong joined forces with the other clan leaders to sneak attack Qin Feiyang, Bing Changtian wanted to kill me personally. Did you hold him responsible? No. Even my own grandfather didn't ask for an explanation on my behalf. Princess Huafeng turned her eyes and looked at Hua Dahong. Hua Dahong's eyes were evasive, as if he didn't dare to look into Princess Huafeng's eyes. Princess Huafeng shook her head and smiled. She glanced at the elders and reclusive elders and asked, "Bing Runing is one of the Feng people. Am I not?" Is it that, in your eyes, my tolerance is a matter of course? When the group of people heard this, they all lowered their heads and blushed. Chapter 3867. Answer me. You are so nice to Bing Changtian and his daughter. Why are you so mean to me? What did I do wrong? Can you tell me? Princess Wolfing looked at the group of people and asked. Bing Changtian glanced at the group of elders and reclusive antiques who were speechless. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. He looked at Princess Wolfing and said, You did wrong by colluding with Qin Feiyang. That's right. As the eldest princess of the Fire Phoenix clan, you actually colluded with our enemy. You are a disgrace to the Feng people. Do you know that? Originally, I wanted to give you a chance to turn over a new leaf by asking you to face the wall and reflect on your mistakes, but I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. The group of elders and reclusive antiques immediately took the opportunity to attack Princess Wolfing. Haha, Princess Wolfing laughed. These were her clansmen. The people she had been protecting were actually such a group of people? How sad. You have gone too far. Daifuku clenched his fists. Did I touch your sore spot? Are you angry now? Bing Runing sneered. It's not worth it. But I'm sure the Feng people have nothing to miss. Princess Wolfing shook her head. Then where are you going? Are you going to join Qin Feiyang? I think so. You have always colluded with him. It's normal for you to join him. Maybe you have wanted to betray the Feng people for a long time. You just couldn't find a suitable excuse. After all, if you leave without a reason, you will be labeled as a traitor. But it's different now. You all put on a pitiful look and put all the blame on us. It's as if you were forced to do this. Even if you go and seek refuge with Qin Feiyang now, no one will say anything about you. Sister, you are really good at acting, Bing Runing said with a mocking smile. Bing Runing, you're courting death. Daifuku couldn't hold himself back any longer. With a roar, he activated the space-time law's ultimate profundity and charged at Bing Runing. Bing Runing's expression changed, and she quickly hid behind Bing Changtian. Bing Changtian thought, Now that you have a Dominator Divine weapon, what are you afraid of? Yeah, I have a sovereign weapon. What am I afraid of? Bing Runing came back to her senses and took a step forward. The Frost Sparrow sword appeared in her hand and shone with earth-shattering sharpness. Daifuku's ultimate profundity of space-time shattered on the spot. What's the situation? Dragons, Cheelants, humans, and sea beasts all rushed out upon hearing the commotion. Isn't that Princess Wolfing? Why are they fighting? When they saw the situation at the Feng people's side, their faces were filled with bewilderment. Strange. Why is the Frost Sparrow sword in Bing Runing's hands? The white-bearded old man mumbled. Qi Shaoyan glanced at Princess Wolfing and Daifuku, then at Bing Runing and the others. A smile crept onto his face as he said, Just wait. There's a good show to watch. On the other side, Long Chen stood at the peak of the mountain and looked at the Feng people thoughtfully. Soon, he shook his head with a smile and turned to look at a young man beside him. It was a young man in golden clothes. His aura was extremely powerful. It was the first prince of the dragons. Have you heard of this saying? Long Chen asked with a smile. The first prince of the dragons looked at him suspiciously. Even the evils of the heavens can be defied. The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear. Long Chen smiled faintly. What do you mean? The first prince of the dragons was confused. Why did he suddenly say such a thing? Just wait and see. The Feng people are about to undergo a great change. Long Chen chuckled and then looked at Princess Wolfing silently. After spending decades together in the Tianzhong Divine Treasure, he knew Princess Wolfing quite well. This woman was very responsible and had a forgiving heart. However, everyone had their own bottom line. If this bottom line was exceeded, then even a little sheep would become a terrifying beast. And now, the Feng people were obviously challenging Princess Wolfing's bottom line. Looking at Daifuku again. At this time, he had completely gone crazy. His eyes were red. He stared at Bing Runing with a murderous aura. Bing Runing's murderous intent was also aroused. Wasn't this a good opportunity to get rid of these two people? She looked at Daifuku and said, A little follower dares to attack me. If I don't kill you today, How can the Feng people establish themselves in the Sky Cloud realm in the future? Then she held the Frost Sparrow sword and slashed at Daifuku. Princess Huafeng shook her head and looked at Bing Runing and the group of old antiques. She sighed and said, "The Feng people want to establish themselves in the Sky Cloud realm with a group of people like you? Wishful thinking." Hearing this, everyone was furious on the spot. But at this time, Princess Huafeng looked at the Frost Sparrow sword and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." "What do you mean? Why is she apologizing to the Dominator Divine Weapon?" Those who didn't know were surprised, including Bing Changtian and the others. Seeing that Daifuku was about to be killed by the Frost Sparrow sword, the sword suddenly stopped. "Frost Sparrow sword, what are you doing? Kill him for me." Bing Runing was stunned and immediately shouted, "Get lost." The Ice Sparrow sword coldly shouted, and a terrifying divine aura emerged. Bing Runing screamed and was sent flying. Her entire body was covered in blood in an instant. What's going on? Everyone was surprised. The Frost Sparrow sword betrayed her and hurt her master Bing Runing, especially the people of the Feng people. Their faces were full of shock. "Do you really admit your mistake?" The Frost Sparrow sword spoke. "Yes." Princess Huafeng nodded. "That's right. With your ability, you can totally become the new Feng Ho of the Feng people. As for the current Feng Ho, she has no vision and no foresight. It's not that I look down on her, but even a clown is better than her." The Frost Sparrow sword smiled disdainfully and said a few words of advice like an elder. Then it landed in front of Princess Huafeng. "The new Feng Ho," Princess Huafeng murmured and shook her head with a smile. "I didn't expect you to have such high hopes for me. However, I have no interest in this Feng Ho. I just want to be with the person I love and live a carefree life." "I just praised you, and now you're saying such unambitious words?" The Frost Sparrow sword was speechless. Everyone has their own ambitions. Princess Huafeng smiled. "All right, up to you. It's fine as long as you leave the Phoenix clan, because I feel disgusted just by looking at the faces of these people." The Frost Sparrow sword didn't hide its disdain. "What's going on? What did you do?" Bing Changtian glared at Princess Huafeng. Bing Runing also flew over and looked at the Frost Sparrow sword in disbelief. "It betrayed her? Do you even need to ask?" "The Frost Sparrow sword is my partner." Princess Huafeng smiled proudly. "What?" Bing Changtian's eyes trembled. Princess Huafeng looked at Bing Changtian and his daughter and sneered. "You don't think that the Frost Sparrow sword is your Dominator Divine Weapon, do you? Feng Ho won't let you get away with this." Bing Runing shouted. "Who does Feng Ho think she is? One word from that stupid woman, and I'll kill her right now." The Frost Sparrow sword sneered. "You?" Bing Runing sneered. "It's just the Frost Sparrow sword. Don't forget that the Feng people have 10 Dominator Divine Weapons." Bing Changtian turned to Hua Dahong and said angrily, "Are you going to let them do whatever they want?" Hua Dahong looked at Bing Zhangtian gloomily, then looked at Princess Huafeng and said, "Are you done? Do you really want to rebel?" "Rebel? I'm not interested. I just want to take back what's mine." Princess Huafeng looked at the palace at the top of the mountain and stepped into the air. "Bastard!" Hua Dahong was furious. The other elders and reclusive antiques were also shocked. This was because they knew that the Fire Phoenix eldest princess was definitely going to find the Phoenix Empress to take back the inheritance. Clang! Hua Dahong waved his hand, and the Phoenix Bell appeared. The Fire Phoenix sword and other Dominator Divine weapons also appeared. Princess Huafeng looked at Hua Dahong and said, "No wonder you don't care about your own granddaughter. Feng Ho gave the Phoenix Bell to you." Hua Dahong said in a low voice, "I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the Frost Sparrow sword, kneel, and apologize to our people." "Apologize? Apologize? Do they have the right to apologize?" Princess Huafeng looked at the Phoenix Bell with disdain and bowed. "Please come back." Clang! The Phoenix Bell rang and landed in front of Princess Huafeng. "What?" Hua Dahong was stunned. What was going on with these 2 Dominator Divine weapons? Wu the Fire Feng people's chief's eyes trembled when he saw this. He was happy. It was obvious that these 2 Dominator Divine weapons only recognized his daughter. Now, he could better understand the grievances in Princess Fire Phoenix's heart. Daifuku had left the inheritance to her, and the two Dominator divine weapons only recognized her. However, for the unity of the Feng people, she was willing to give the inheritance and the two Dominator divine weapons to Feng Ho. She sacrificed so much, but what did she get in return? Scolding, hatred, and slander. If Feng Ho hadn't given the Frost Sparrow sword to Bing Changtian and his daughter and crossed the line, his daughter would have chosen to remain silent. Yes, this daughter of his had never disappointed him. However, these clansmen had disappointed his daughter. He wasn't angry at his daughter's choice. Instead, he silently supported her. Whoever dares to stop me will be killed without mercy. Princess Wolfing scanned the crowd and said coldly. Then, she stepped onto the mountain peak with the two Dominator divine weapons. What are you waiting for? Take her down. Wadahong, Bing Changtian, and the others looked at the Dominator divine weapons and shouted. However, the group of sovereign divine weapons remained silent and indifferent. What do you mean? She has openly betrayed us and is going to offend Lord Feng Ho. What are you still doing here? Go. A reclusive old antique shouted anxiously. You better shut up for this ancestor. The Fire Phoenix sword snorted. What? Even you want to betray us? The reclusive old antique roared. Clang. The Fire Phoenix sword vibrated and a wisp of sword energy shot out. The reclusive old antique screamed and his body was shattered in the air. This, Bing Changtian, Bing Runing, Wadahong, and the others were stunned. The Fire Phoenix sword attacked them. Chapter 38-68. This was simply unbelievable. It was understandable that the Frost Sparrow sword and the Phoenix Bell were helping Princess Wolfing. After all, Princess Wolfing obtained them from the Sky Bell divine treasure. However, this Fire Phoenix sword was once subdued by Feng Ho. In other words, Feng Ho was the owner of the Fire Phoenix sword. However, the Fire Phoenix sword was also helping Princess Wolfing at this moment. Not to mention the people of Feng people, the people of the other forces were also in disbelief. What's going on? Also, what did the Frost Sparrow sword mean? It actually said that Princess Wolfing has the ability to become the new Feng Ho? Is it encouraging her to usurp the throne? Everyone was discussing. However, Princess Wolfing turned a deaf ear to all of this. She stood on the mountain peak and stared at the palace gate. Since my concession can't be exchanged for sincerity, then no one can take away what belongs to me. As her voice fell, the law of fire rolled out, and the mountain peak instantly turned into a sea of fire. A flaming statue stood in the middle of the sea of fire, like a god that ruled all directions. This is the ultimate profundity of the law of fire. She has actually comprehended an ultimate profundity. Everyone was shocked. However, as the ultimate profundity of the law of fire was activated, the power of laws descended from the sky. What? There's actually the power of laws. When the Frost Sparrow sword and the Phoenix Bell awakened, the power of laws didn't descend. However, when she activated the ultimate profundity, she actually violated the rules? Everyone was shocked again. Princess Wolfing also raised her eyebrows slightly and looked up at the sky. Don't worry. The Frost Sparrow sword smiled domineeringly. Its sharpness covered the sky and covered the earth, and like a torrent, it blasted toward the power of laws. Boom. The two collided. The power of laws of hell was actually crushed by the Frost Sparrow sword's sharpness. It's so strong? Everyone was dumbfounded. At the same time, Black Tortoise World. The fire python also obtained the law of fire and was in seclusion somewhere in the Devil's Land. But suddenly, it opened its eyes and a trace of bewilderment crept into its eyes. It hurriedly soared into the sky and looked towards the courtyard where Qin Feiyong was and shouted, "Brother Qin, quickly take me out. There's a situation outside." Qin Feiyong woke up from his closed-door training and walked out of the courtyard in surprise. He looked at the fire python and asked, "What's going on?" "It seems like someone has violated the rules of hell," the fire python said in a deep voice. "Breaking the rules? That means there's a battle." Qin Feiyong was startled. He took a step forward and landed in front of the fire python. He coiled around the fire python and instantly appeared in the main hall. He then opened the main hall's door and landed on the edge of the cliff. A terrifying aura immediately rolled over. So she was the one who broke the rules. The fire python looked at Princess Huofeng on the opposite mountain peak. Qin Feiyang looked at this scene and his face was full of suspicion. What's wrong with this woman? Why did she suddenly cause such a big commotion? Boom. The rule force descended once again. Moreover, it wasn't just 1, but 10. A destructive aura shrouded heaven and earth. However, the frost sparrow sword was peerlessly domineering. It forcefully shattered the rule force again. Everyone was shocked by this. A sovereign divine weapon was indeed powerful. It could even resist the rule force. However, Qin Feiyang was not surprised at all. Back in the Nether King's Hell, the Ice Dragon had brought the Dragon Princess to the ancient city of Qingyu to cause trouble for him. At that time, in a fit of anger, he activated his slaughter domain and broke the rules. Just like this, 10 rule forces descended at once. Just as he was about to lose his life, 2 war souls appeared. They were the 9-leaf fire lotus and the crimson sword soul. At that time, the 2 war souls had made a move. Not only did they protect him, but they also shattered the rule force. Back on Divine Dragon Island, the 2 war souls could fight against the sovereign divine weapon, the heavenly dragon god sword. Their might was equivalent to a sovereign divine weapon. If the 2 war souls could fight against the rule force here, it was not surprising that a sovereign divine weapon like the Frost Sparrow Sword could also fight against the rule force here. However, now, was the Nether King's Hell's rule force really nothing to Qin Feiyang? It could only kill heaven-defying divine weapons. A sovereign divine weapon was completely capable of fighting against it. Of course, it could not be underestimated. Take Princess Huofeng for example. Even though she had mastered the ultimate profundity of an ordinary law, she could not block the rule force without the help of a sovereign divine weapon, unless she had mastered the ultimate profundity of a supreme law. In short, anyone who had a sovereign divine weapon or mastered the ultimate profundity of a supreme law would no longer have to fear the Nether King's Hell's rule force. In the blink of an eye, just as the Frost Sparrow sword shattered the rule force, Princess Huofeng waved her hand. The flame divine spirit standing in the middle of the sea of fire struck the great hall with its palm. With a loud boom, the great hall shattered. However, as soon as the great hall shattered, the auras of the laws of space and destruction surged out. This was Feng Ho's aura. She walked out of the dust cloud step by step. Her aura was majestic. She stared at Princess Huofeng with bone-chilling, killing intent in her eyes. Frost Sparrow Sword, Phoenix Bell, what's going on? Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Ho and then at Princess Huofeng and asked through voice transmission, Qin Feiyang? The 2 sovereign divine weapons were stunned. When they noticed Qin Feiyang standing at the peak of the mountain, they immediately felt a trace of joy in their hearts. Then, they briefly explained the situation. What? Qin Feiyang's eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. What he was worried about had indeed happened. However, Princess Huofeng's performance this time surprised him. She actually dared to openly challenge Feng Ho. It's all thanks to Bing Runing. If she hadn't brought me to this silly woman to show off, this silly woman definitely wouldn't have resisted. The Frost Sparrow sword snickered. Qin Feiyang was stunned when he heard this. He turned to look at Bing Runing, who was standing behind Bing Changtian. So, he had to thank this woman again? Why did he say again? Because last time in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, if this woman hadn't been silly and took the initiative to provoke them, he wouldn't have had the chance to subdue the Ice Phoenix sword. But then again, she couldn't do anything right but spoiled everything. This sentence couldn't be more appropriate to describe Bing Runing. Princess Huofeng endured the grievance and reluctance to give the inheritance and the sovereign divine weapon to Feng Ho. This was her bottom line. Anyone with half a brain would know that they couldn't provoke her at this time. Because even if it was a little rabbit, if you provoked it, it would open its mouth and bite you. Let alone a human, and a person who controlled the fate of the Feng people. Yes, now, the fate of the Feng people was no longer in the hands of Feng Ho, but in the hands of Princess Huofeng, because all the sovereign divine weapons had already acknowledged her as their master. But Bing Runing didn't believe this and wanted to show off in front of Princess Wolfing. Who didn't know the relationship between Princess Wolfing and Bing Runing? The Frost Sparrow sword could fall into the hands of Feng Ho and people like Hua Dahong, but it definitely couldn't fall into the hands of Bing Changtian and Bing Runing. Because if it fell into the hands of the father and daughter, it would be the last hope in Princess Wolfing's heart, the last straw. At that time, she would definitely rebel against the Feng people. Then, it would help Qin Feiyang and the others. Because Princess Wolfing would rebel against the Feng people, she wouldn't have any worries and would openly walk together with the white-eyed wolf. At that time, wouldn't all the sovereign divine weapons of the Feng people fall into the hands of Qin Feiyang and the others? So, for Qin Feiyang, this was a scene he was very happy to see. Even when he forced the Fire Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons to submit to Princess Wolfing, he had been looking forward to this day. Brother Qin, do you need my help to block the power of the rules? The fire python looked at the power of the rules that kept falling and bombarding Princess Wolfing and asked, "No need. The Frost Sparrow sword and Phoenix Bell can handle it. Besides, don't you still have me?" Qin Feiyang smiled confidently. The power of the rules in hell had indeed given him a headache, but now he didn't care about it. Okay, however, their battle can't be completely erupted, or else it will affect the creatures in hell. The fire python was very worried. I know. Qin Feiyang nodded. The battle wouldn't erupt completely because Feng Ho didn't have the strength to do so. At the peak of the mountain, the Frost Sparrow sword and Phoenix Bell were helping to resist the power of the rules. Princess Wolfing and Feng Ho stood facing each other. The current Princess Wolfing exuded the aura of an empress, and it wasn't inferior to Feng Ho at all. Moreover, facing Feng Ho now, she no longer had the fear and respect she had in the past. It was as if they were of the same generation. Stop immediately, and I'll let bygones be bygones. After a moment of silence, Feng Ho finally spoke. From her gloomy tone, it wasn't hard to see that she was trying her best to endure. Then should I thank you for showing mercy? Princess Wolfing asked indifferently. It seems like you don't want to cherish this opportunity. Feng Ho said in a deep voice. You're wrong. It wasn't you who gave me the opportunity. It was me who gave you the opportunity. You want the ultimate inheritance of the law of karma? Fine. I'll give it to you. You want the Frost Sparrow sword and Phoenix Bell? Fine. I'll give them to you too. At that time, I even secretly told the Frost Sparrow sword and Phoenix Bell to protect the Feng people. But what did I get in return for doing that? Not only did you give the Frost Sparrow sword to Bing Changtian and his daughter, but you also asked Bing Changtian to secretly spy on me and Daifuku. I'd like to ask Lord Feng Ho, what exactly are you trying to do? First Princess Wolfing asked. Her tone was very calm, but once she said those words, it immediately caused a huge uproar. The dragons, the Kirins, the humans, the ferocious beasts, the sea beasts, and the people from various forces all looked at Feng Ho in disbelief. She actually snatched the inheritance from a junior? Oh my God. Is this something that a master of a forbidden area should do? Fine. You want it. I'll give it to you. After all, you're an elder. I'm a junior, and I should be filial to you. However, you actually gave my Dominator divine weapon to Bing Changtian and his daughter? That's too much. Who didn't know the grudge between Princess Wolfing and Bing Changtian and his daughter? Wasn't it obvious that Princess Wolfing would be disappointed by what she did? Therefore, everyone present couldn't help but complain about the injustice in their hearts for Princess Wolfing. She had worked so hard for so many years in the Heavenly Bell Divine Treasure, but in the end, she had benefited Bing Changtian and his daughter. She even ended up in a situation where she was spied on. Anyone would be resentful. Chapter 3869. At the same time, Feng Ho was also furious. She had tried her best to restrain herself because she didn't want to make a big deal out of it and ruin her reputation. However, she didn't expect Princess Wolfing to say it in public without any scruples. She was instantly cursed by everyone. The elders and antiques of the Feng people also looked quite gloomy. If Feng Ho's reputation was ruined, the entire Feng people would be disgraced as well. Their resentment towards Princess Wolfing grew even stronger. Yes, Even at this time, they didn't reflect on themselves. They just kept pushing the blame onto Princess Wolfing. This was the common problem of selfish people. They would never think that it was their fault. If it was in the past, Princess Wolfing would definitely choose to remain silent and swallow this grievance alone. However, it was different now. She wanted to be her true self for once. Taking a step back and enduring would only encourage the other party to be arrogant. She looked at the Phoenix Empress with an extremely cold expression and said indifferently, "Please, return the inheritance to me right now. You're courting death." Phoenix Empress clenched her fists and looked at the sovereign divine weapons floating below her. She shouted, "Kill this treacherous traitor right now." Hearing this, the Fire Feng people's chief's eyes trembled. He immediately looked at the 9 sovereign divine weapons. Although the Fire Phoenix sword had helped his daughter before, they were facing Feng Ho after all. Facing Feng Ho, would these sovereign divine weapons still help his daughter? Gradually, a glimmer of hope rose in his heart, but he was even more surprised, because the Fire Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons didn't move. What surprised him was why these sovereign divine weapons were taking care of his daughter now. "Didn't you hear Feng Ho's order? Why are you still standing here like idiots?" The elders and antiques of the Feng people also shouted angrily. Sigh. The Fire Phoenix sword sighed and flew to the top of the mountain. The other 8 sovereign divine weapons also silently followed after him. The Fire Feng people's chief became nervous again. Bing Changtian, Bing Runing, and the others sneered. They all thought that the Fiery Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons were targeting Princess Wolfeng. In his heart, he was very pleased with himself. Even a sovereign weapon wouldn't dare to disobey Feng Ho's orders. However, they didn't notice that Princess Wolfing, whose back was facing them, didn't have any trace of nervousness on her face. Instead, there was a trace of mockery. Feng Ho looked at Princess Wolfing and said, "It's not too late for you to admit your mistake." Even she did not notice the trace of mockery hidden in Princess Wolfing's eyes. Princess Wolfing smiled without saying anything. "All right, I'll fulfill your wish." Feng Ho was furious. She shouted righteously, "You disobeyed your superiors. You colluded with the enemy and harmed your own clansmen. Your crime is punishable by death. I hereby announce that you will be sentenced to death as a warning to others." After that, she looked at the Fiery Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons and waved her arm. "No." The Fire Feng people shouted and ran toward the mountain peak. However, Hua Dahong stopped him and said angrily, "Do you want to die too? Do you want me to leave you in the lurch? She's my daughter, your granddaughter. How can you be so heartless?" The Fire Feng people shouted, "She's at fault. Besides, is Feng Ho someone we can offend? It's fine if you want to die, but don't drag us down with you." Hua Dahong snorted. Hearing this, the Fire Feng people looked at his old father as if he was looking at a stranger. His granddaughter was in a life-threatening situation, but he didn't care. He even seemed to be gloating. Was this the father he had always respected? Only now did he realize that his old father had such a cold side. "Father, don't worry." Princess Wolfing turned to look at the Fire Feng people and smiled. "How can I not worry?" The Fire Feng people cried, "Trust me." Princess Wolfing smiled, then looked at Feng Ho and sighed. "To be honest, I'm really disappointed now because you're the person I've always respected. But thank you. Thank you for being so heartless and for shattering the last bit of hope in my heart." Yes, she actually still had a glimmer of hope. If Feng Ho could realize her mistake, apologize to her, and take the initiative to return the inheritance to her, she might continue to stay in the Feng people. However, it turned out that it was purely wishful thinking on her part. How could someone like Feng Ho realize her mistake? Even if she knew it was her fault, she would never admit it. There was nothing to be sad about. What are you doing? What are you waiting for? She's already betrayed the Feng people. You don't have to care about her. Feng Ho looked at the Fiery Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons and shouted. She thought. The Fiery Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons were unwilling to attack because they remembered their past relationship with Princess Wolfeng. They couldn't bear to do anything to Princess Wolfeng. However, she didn't know that even if these sovereign divine weapons were given 100 guts, they wouldn't dare to do anything to Princess Huofeng. Sigh. Princess Huofeng shook her head and sighed. She looked at Feng Ho and said calmly, "Do you think they'll still listen to you?" "What do you mean?" Feng Ho was surprised. "I'm not who I used to be. They're also not who they used to be." Princess Huofeng smiled and looked up at the fiery phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons. She said, "No matter what method you use, you must make Lord Feng Ho hand over the inheritance of the law of karma."
Yes.
Immediately, under countless incredulous gazes, the 9 sovereign divine weapons responded respectfully. Then, they swarmed forward and surrounded Feng Ho. What's going on? This was especially so for the members of the Phoenix clan. They were all dumbfounded as they watched this scene. The Fire Feng people's chief was also stunned. Needless to say, Bing Runing's face was full of disbelief. Of course, Feng Ho was no exception. In an instant, the place fell into a dead silence. Everyone's face was full of doubts. "Feng Ho, don't force us to attack. Hand over the inheritance," Fiery Phoenix Sword said, breaking the silence. "Why?" Feng Ho quivered and looked at the sovereign divine weapons and shouted angrily, "We've seen what you've done these days. To be honest, it's quite disappointing. And we've also seen the princess's efforts in the Sky Bell divine treasure. It can be said that if it weren't for her, none of the sovereign divine weapons would have escaped from Qin Feiyang's evil clutches. In other words, if it weren't for the princess and Qin Feiyang, we would have fallen into Qin Feiyang's hands now, let alone the inheritance of the strongest law. For the sake of the Feng people, she really has a clear conscience. But how did you treat her? How did the clansmen of the Feng people treat her? To be honest, all these years, we've been serving the princess. In fact, we've been holding a grudge in our hearts. But now, it seems that she's more suitable to be our assistant than you. She's also more suitable to be the Feng Ho of the Feng people." Fiery Phoenix Sword sighed. These were words from the bottom of her heart. Surrender. Feng Ho's eyes were trembling. Bing Changtian and the others were also very surprised. These sovereign divine weapons had surrendered to this woman? It's indeed unfair to the princess. Fiery Phoenix Divine Jade also sighed and said, "Take the Ice Phoenix Sword for example. When the princess met Qin Feiyang and learned that Bing Runing had lost the Ice Phoenix Sword, she did everything she could to make up for this loss. She cooperated with Qin Feiyang so that she could get more sovereign divine weapons and precept miniatures as soon as possible. The Frost Sparrow Sword, the Phoenix Bell, and the inheritance of the Law of Fire and the Law of Cause and Effect were all obtained because she cooperated with Qin Feiyang. She was always thinking about the Feng people, but what about you? It's fine if you don't thank her, but you actually accused her of colluding with the enemy and killing her clansmen. The worst thing is that you scolded her while enjoying the inheritance and sovereign divine weapons that she brought back from the Heaven Bell divine treasure. How hypocritical." Fiery Phoenix Divine Jade's words were full of disdain and contempt, which made the Feng people and the others lower their heads in shame. The people of the other forces also had disgust in their eyes. Princess Huofeng might lie to them, but these sovereign divine weapons wouldn't lie. The people of the Feng people were really too much. She was supposed to be a hero, but she ended up being a sinner. It sounded a little funny. "Hurry up. There's a limit to our patience," the Frost Sparrow Sword shouted. Feng Ho was indifferent. First of all, at this moment, her heart was full of anger and resentment. Not only did a junior openly provoke her, but the sovereign divine weapon also betrayed her. Second of all, she really didn't dare to take out the inheritance of the Law of Cause and Effect, because once she took it out, it would be tantamount to admitting that she stole the inheritance in front of everyone. How could she live in the future? It seems that you really want to force us to make a move. You have to think about it carefully. The Feng people don't have any sovereign divine weapons now. With the 2 ultimate laws you have mastered, and Bing Changtian and the other ants, you can never defeat us." Fiery Phoenix Sword said. Hearing this, the people of the Feng people, including Feng Ho, couldn't help but tremble. That's right. Because of the betrayal of the sovereign divine weapons, the Feng people didn't even have a single sovereign divine weapon. The Phoenix Empress was the only one who had grasped the ultimate profundity of an ultimate law. How could the Feng people fight against her? Hua Dahong quivered. He looked at the Fire Feng people and whispered, "Hurry up and persuade Wu Er. If there's anything, we can discuss it in private. Don't make such a big deal out of it. We'll be laughed at by the other forces." "Now you want to discuss it?" The Fire Phoenix clan leader sneered, completely unmoved. Looking at the Fire Phoenix clan leader on the mountain peak, his brows were filled with pride. This was his daughter. Good job. With her own strength, she shook the entire Feng people and controlled the lifeline of the Feng people. Hua Dahong glared at the Fire Feng people. The Fire Feng people ignored him. Suddenly, Bing Changtian jumped out and slapped the back of the Fire Feng people. The Fire Feng people immediately screamed. His sea of qi was directly shattered, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Bing Changtian Yu. The Fire Feng people flew into a rage. "Humph! It's all your fault. It's because you didn't teach your daughter well." Bing Changtian snorted and grabbed the neck of the Fire Feng people. He looked up at Princess Huafeng and said, "Surrender now, or I'll kill him." Chapter 3870. In an instant, everyone's eyes fell on Bing Changtian. How dare he sneak attack the Fire Feng people and threaten Princess Huafeng? You're the clan leader of the Ice Phoenix clan. How dare you use such despicable means? At the same time, Qin Feiyang also looked at Bing Changtian. This man had come out to cause trouble more than once. He really won't cry until he's in the coffin. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Bing Runing, who was beside Bing Changtian. If he remembered correctly, this woman seemed to be the other person who had opened the Eye of Despair. Interesting. Immediately, he lifted the corner of his mouth slightly and said, "Brother Fire, I still need your help to shield the power of the rules." "Okay." The Fire Python nodded. It had been so long an ice dragon and small beast hadn't appeared. They probably wouldn't care about these trivial matters. With a thought, the power of the rules of heaven and earth immediately dissipated. Qin Feiyang immediately waved his hand, and a young man in black in his 20s appeared beside him. It was the demon ancestor. The demon ancestor had always looked quite handsome. "What are you doing?" The demon ancestor glanced at the people of various clans and turned to look at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "Do you see that woman?" Qin Feiyang pouted his lips at Bing Runing. The demon ancestor looked at Bing Runing. When his eyes met Bing Runing, there was an uncontrollable sense of repulsion in his heart. His expression immediately turned bewildered. "That's right. She's the other person who had opened the Eye of Despair. When she was in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, I saw her open the Fighting Soul." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Really? That's really a case of traveling far and wide looking for something, only to find it by chance." The demon ancestor suddenly had a trace of playfulness in his eyes. "The Eye of Despair seems to be one of the 10 strongest fighting souls. Aren't the 10 strongest fighting souls unique?" The Fire Python listened to their conversation and couldn't help but have a trace of suspicion in his eyes. "Brother Fire, there's something you don't know. The 10 most powerful fighting souls need to be fused together to become unique." Qin Feiyang explained via voice transmission. Because Python had never been to the Sky Cloud realm, he knew nothing about this. At the same time, Princess Huafeng heard the screams of the Fire Feng people. She turned around and looked down. When she saw Bing Changtian sneakily attacking her father and even using her father as a hostage, her eyes were filled with killing intent. If it was Hua Dahong, she would definitely ignore him. But the Fire Feng people looked different. The chief of the Fire Feng people stood by her side the whole time. Although Fire Feng people did not stand up for Feng Ho when she was fighting for the inheritance in the main hall, she knew that her father was helpless. Even though Chief Feng people was the leader of the clan and held a high position, he had no right to speak in front of Feng Ho, the clan elders, and the old antiques in the clan. The most important thing was, her father's love for her was unadulterated. When the Phoenix Empress saw this, she seemed to have seen hope. She sent a voice transmission, "Wu Er, I was indeed in the wrong in this matter, but I really didn't have any intention of targeting you. Everything I did was for the Phoenix clan, just like you." Did she really know she was wrong? No. She was trying to appease Princess Hua Feng's emotions while looking for an opportunity to kill her in one strike. But now, would Princess Hua Feng believe her? Obviously not. She looked at the Phoenix Bell and said, "Find a chance to kill Bing Chang'e." Now that Hua Python had blocked the rules, there was no need to worry about the power of rules. No problem. You have to be like this in the future. You can't be merciful to your enemies. After the Phoenix Bell said that, it instantly appeared above Bing Changtian's head. Boom. Majesty rolled in. Bing Changtian was imprisoned in the void on the spot. Why don't you think about it? The Phoenixes no longer have any Dominator Divine weapons. With the strength of Dominator Divine weapons like the Phoenix Bell, how could they give you a chance to threaten them? Even if they had hostages, it would only be a matter of time for you to rescue them. The Hua Feng people took the opportunity to break free, but he didn't leave. He turned to look at Bing Changtian. His soul consciousness rolled out like an invisible arrow and directly went into Bing Changtian's lower abdomen. For an expert at his level, the destruction of his sea of qi didn't mean that he had lost the ability to fight back. The divine soul and soul consciousness could be used as weapons to fight back. Bing Changtian was imprisoned by the Phoenix Bell's power and couldn't move at all. He could only watch the Hua Feng people attack. With a painful scream, Bing Changtian's sea of qi was shattered on the spot. Blood splattered and dyed the void red. None of Hua Dahong's group went to rescue him. Even Bing Runing was the same. They all stepped back in horror. Now, they deeply realized the consequences of not having a Dominator Divine weapon. If they had a Dominator Divine weapon at this moment, that's right, they didn't need too many. A Dominator Divine weapon was enough to stop the Phoenix Bell and hold the Hua Feng people in their hands. Unfortunately, now, even a sovereign divine weapon was an extravagant hope for the Phoenixes. At the mountain peak, Feng Ho was also annoyed. They couldn't even protect a hostage. They were simply a bunch of useless trash. But suddenly, she noticed that the Dragon King and the Kirin Lord were watching in front of their respective palaces. She said, "Are you just going to watch? Help me. Don't forget that we have an agreement to fight against Qin Feiyang together." The two giants heard this and looked at each other. They didn't do anything. If they didn't know about Qin Feiyang's harvest and the Skybell Divine Treasure, if they didn't know about the relationship between Princess Wolfing and the White-Eyed Wolf, they would still lend a helping hand. After all, Princess Wolfing was alone. If the two races joined forces, it would be easy to take her down. But now, even as the lords of the restricted area, they really didn't have the courage. Because behind Princess Wolfing, there was not only Dominator Divine weapons like the Fire Phoenix Sword, but also Qin Feiyang and his group. One had to know, Qin Feiyang's current foundation had already surpassed theirs. In addition, there was the Feather Emperor, the Little Rabbit, the Land of Buried Gods, the Sea Beasts, the human race, and so on. Who would be able to shake this power now? Moreover, this matter was originally Feng Ho's fault. Speaking of which, Feng Ho was also stupid. With the relationship between Princess Wolfing and the White-Eyed Wolf, if she handled it a little better, she would definitely be able to get a lot of rule miniatures from Qin Feiyang's hands. But she wanted to do the opposite. If this wasn't suicide, then what was? Looking at the two indifferent people, the Phoenix Empress was furious to the extreme. These people were indeed unreliable. Seeing that her father was out of danger, Princess Wolfing couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. She looked at the Phoenix Bell and said, "Kill it." Clang. The Phoenix Bell immediately fell, and a terrifying divine aura surged. "No, Feng Ho, save me," Bing Changtian roared. In the end, accompanied by a desperate scream, his body and soul were destroyed. "Father!" Bing Runing's body and mind trembled, and her face turned pale. She never thought that the situation would develop like this. If she had known that she would touch Princess Wolfing's bottom line, she wouldn't have dared to bring the Frost Sparrow sword to show off. It could be said that everything that happened today was caused by her. Bing Changtian's death was also because of her. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. On the mountain peak, seeing that Feng Ho still didn't take out the Karma Law inheritance, the Fire Phoenix Sword's tone was cold as she shouted, "Attack!" The 9 Dominator Divine weapons and the Frost Sparrow sword attacked Feng Ho at the same time. Stop, stop, stop. But at this moment, a voice sounded. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. What was going on? He actually made the Fire Phoenix sword and the other Dominator divine weapon stop? This didn't seem like this person's style. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and walked to the mountain peak on the opposite side. He landed beside Fire Phoenix First Princess and looked at the sovereign's divine weapons. He said in displeasure, "How can you treat Lord Phoenix Empress like this?" The Fire Phoenix sword and the other Dominator divine weapons were stunned. What was this guy trying to do? Who didn't know Qin Feiyang's character? He never showed mercy to his enemies, unless there was a special reason. But with his relationship with Feng Ho, what special reason could there be? So, it was obvious that he didn't have good intentions, because he wasn't such a kind person to begin with. Qin Feiyang glanced at Feng Ho and sighed. We have to respect a senior like Feng Ho. Even if she is unreasonable and snatches the inheritance, we can't force her. We have to slowly reason with her and persuade her to take it out willingly. Hearing this, those who knew Qin Feiyang well, such as Long Qin and Qi Xiaoyun, couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Reason? Or to reason with the Phoenix Empress? Do you think that's possible with your character? He must be holding back a lot of evil ideas. As expected, Qin Feiyang turned his gaze and looked at the Feng people below. The members of the Phoenix clan were also puzzled. What was this person trying to do? They wouldn't believe that he was sincerely helping them. Don't panic. I will ask the Phoenix Bell to be gentler. Qin Feiyang chuckled and looked at the Phoenix Bell. He smiled and said, kill them one by one. Remember, your actions must be gentle and not too bloody. After all, we are all reasonable people. We have to convince others with virtue. The Phoenix Bell was stunned and pondered for a moment before it understood. He seemed to be asking it to kill all the Feng people. It was speechless. What did this have to do with convincing others with virtue? Not only the Phoenix Bell, but Long Chun and the rest also had a bitter smile on their faces. Sure enough, he didn't have good intentions. However, the Feng people were scared out of their wits. Kill them one by one. Did this mean that if Feng Ho didn't hand over the inheritance, he would keep killing them until they were all dead? At the thought of this, the group of people couldn't help but feel their hair stand on end and their faces turned pale. Lord Feng Ho, quickly hand over the inheritance to them. You know better than us what kind of person Qin Feiyang is. He will definitely do what he says. I don't want to die. Please, have pity on us. It's just an inheritance. There's no need to sacrifice all of us. The members of the Phoenix clan all knelt in the void. Their pleas rose and fell one after another, lingering in the ears. Chapter 3871. Looking at this group of cowardly and panic-stricken clansmen, Feng Ho was angry and hateful. They were Feng people after all. Couldn't they have a little backbone? However, she was even angrier at Qin Feiyang's attitude. On the surface, it sounded nice. He respected her and tried to influence her, but in reality, he was simply trampling on her dignity. Senior Feng Ho as a junior, I'm not bad, right? Qin Feiyang looked at Fire Phoenix and chuckled, but his eyes were full of ridicule. That's right. With my current ability, I can directly snatch the inheritance from you, but I won't do that. I want to force you to hand over the inheritance willingly and let you experience what despair is. Looking at Qin Feiyang's smiling face, Feng Ho couldn't help but gnash her teeth. If she could, she really wanted to slap him. Phoenix Bell, do it. Let's start with the old antiques of the Ice Phoenix clan. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The group of old antiques of the Ice Phoenix clan trembled and roared, Feng Ho, please, save us. Dong. But at the same time, accompanied by the sound of a bell, the divine power of the Phoenix Bell fell, and an old antique immediately flew into the air uncontrollably. Don't kill me! The old antique screamed and struggled desperately. But this was the Phoenix Bell, a sovereign divine weapon. Even though he had mastered the ultimate meaning of ordinary laws, it was useless. Accompanied by desperate screams, the old antique's body shattered bit by bit. Blood gushed out and dyed the void red. Qin Feiyang, please, don't kill me. I'm willing to be your slave. In the face of life and death, seeing that Feng Ho was useless, the old antique immediately roared at Qin Feiyang, who was on the mountain peak. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and looked at Feng Ho quietly. The Phoenix Bell's methods were really gentle. Quite a while had already passed, but old antique still hadn't died. His body hadn't been completely pulverized, and his blood-curdling screams continued to reverberate between heaven and earth. Seeing this, many people couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. They cursed in their hearts. This damned gentleness was clearly a form of torture. Rather than that, he might as well be a little more ruthless and straightforward. About 10 breaths passed. All that was left of old antique was his soul. Seeing that Feng Ho was still unmoved, Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. It seems that he is still not gentle enough to influence Our Lady Feng Ho. Hey! The Phoenix Bell chuckled, and divine might rolled out. The people of the Feng people were instantly enveloped by this divine might. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. He pointed at Bing Runing and said, "Don't attack her." Princess Wolfing was stunned. The others were also puzzled. Based on the grudge between Qin Feiyang and Bing Runing, shouldn't he be the focus of attention? Why didn't the Phoenix Bell touch her now? What the hell was this guy doing? Even Bing Runing herself was puzzled. Wait, could it be that Qin Feiyang has taken a fancy to Bing Runing's beauty and wants to do something? No way. I heard that Qin Feiyang is already married, and I also heard that his wife is extraordinarily beautiful. What do you know? Which man would dislike having too many wives? Moreover, this Bing Runing is indeed good-looking. Gossip was a fearful thing. This sentence was indeed true. It was obviously made up out of nothing, but after everyone's discussion, it instantly became as if it was true. Even Qin Feiyang himself couldn't help but feel helpless when he heard this. Why were these people's imaginations so rich? Bing Runing? Although she was indeed somewhat beautiful, with such a vicious heart, how could he take a fancy to her? Moreover, he was single-minded when it came to relationships. The Phoenix Bell was also stunned, but it didn't ask much and let Bing Runing go. But the others weren't so lucky. Not only did the pressure increase, but everyone couldn't help but scream as blood gushed out of their bodies. His pleas to the Phoenix Empress had never stopped. Feng Ho looked at this scene and clenched her hands tightly. This was the backbone of the Feng people. Now that they had lost the sovereign divine weapon, if they also lost these people, the entire Feng people, except for her, would be left with a group of old and weak soldiers. At that time, how could the Feng people keep pace with the dragons and the Kirin clan? At that time, the Feng people would even become the weakest side in the Sky Cloud realm. Although the human race used to be at the bottom, it was different now. The Feather Emperor and the Blood Ancestor had returned. With these two experts, the human race was no longer the same as before. The Feng people were at the bottom. This kind of thing absolutely couldn't happen. However, if she lowered her head like this, how could she establish her prestige in the future? How could she establish a foothold in the Sky Cloud realm? Wouldn't she be laughed at by others? She endured the grievance in her heart and transmitted her voice. Qin Feiyang, don't be too ruthless. Let's talk in private. Qin Feiyang smiled but didn't say anything. Don't go too far. Feng Ho roared in a low voice. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. How could she have the face to say this? Who was going too far? Sure enough, there was a saying that said, despicable people were invincible. Lord Feng Ho, save me. At first, only a small part of the old antique's divine soul was left. Seeing that his divine soul was about to be destroyed, his heart was terrified to the extreme. As for the others, including Hua Dahong, their bodies were shattering bit by bit. It was worse than death, because if they were killed directly, the fear before death would be very short. But now, they were facing a very long process, stepping into death bit by bit. This kind of fear would be infinitely magnified until finally, they completely collapsed. No, the old antique only had the last wisp of divine soul left. His miserable cry resounded through the sky. Stop! Feng Ho couldn't sit still anymore. She looked at the Phoenix Bell and roared. But the Phoenix Bell didn't stop. Feng Ho hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang and said anxiously, make it stop. I'll hand over the inheritance. The inheritance is really in her hands? How selfish. She's not being selfish anymore. Because generally, selfish people will at least give the younger generation a way out after robbing something that belongs to them. But not only did she snatch the inheritance, she also wants to kill them all. This kind of person actually calls herself Feng Ho? How ridiculous. People from various forces started to discuss without hiding anything. Facing those pairs of eyes full of contempt, Feng Ho felt even more humiliated. She couldn't wait to find a hole to crawl into. See? That's reasonable. If you encounter such things in the future, remember to be like this. Use sincerity to influence the other party. Qin Feiyang chuckled. The Phoenix Bell was speechless to the extreme. It released the pressure. The Feng people were like stray dogs. They desperately ran toward Feng Ho. Lord Feng Ho, give it to me. Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Ho with a smile. Feng Ho glared at Qin Feiyang. If looks could kill, Qin Feiyang would have died countless times. However, Qin Feiyang completely treated it as air. His face was full of smiles. Finally, Feng Ho still took out the inheritance and threw it to Princess Wufeng. Princess Wufeng immediately caught it in her hand. After confirming that there was no mistake, she breathed a sigh of relief. That's the inheritance of the law of cause and effect, and it's the inheritance of the ultimate profound. My God, there is actually such a divine object in this world. Then Princess Wufeng, as long as she fuses with this inheritance, will she be able to control the ultimate profound of the law of cause and effect? People from various forces looked at Princess Wufeng with envy in their eyes. At the same time, they were curious. What kind of place is this Skybell Divine Treasury? It actually has such a divine object. Wait a minute. Even Princess Wufeng has an inheritance of the ultimate profound. Then what about Qin Feiyang? It seems that from the moment he came back until now, Qin Feiyang hasn't personally made a move. What level has his current strength reached? There is also Frenzy and Golden Wing Wolf King. They haven't appeared until now. Are they dead? But if they are dead, why isn't there any sadness on Qin Feiyang's face? Everyone stared at Qin Feiyang in surprise. There were countless doubts in their minds. And for all this, Qin Feiyang naturally wouldn't explain. He looked at Princess Feng Ho with a trace of sympathy in his eyes. She sacrificed so much for the Feng people, but in exchange, she got such a result. What a pitiful woman. Feng Ho said in a deep voice, the inheritance has been given to you. Now, please disappear in front of this sovereign immediately. Okay. Qin Feiyang chuckled and looked at the Phoenix Bell. Take Bing Runing and let's go. Bing Runing's gaze trembled. What does this person want to do? Why should we take Bing Runing away? Feng Ho's gaze also sank. I really want to reason with you, but you really don't know what's good for you. You want to know why? Okay, I'll tell you. Because my current strength is stronger than yours. Are you satisfied? Qin Feiyang sneered, looked at Feng Ho with disdain and turned to leave. Stronger than me? Haha, really arrogant to the extreme. Since you're stronger than me, then fight with this sovereign if you have the ability. If this sovereign loses, then from now on, you will be my leader. But if this sovereign wins, then return the Fire Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons to the Feng people. Feng Ho shouted, the power of law surging, her face full of provocation. Follow my lead? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He turned his head and glanced at Huadahong and the others. He shook his head and smiled. I'm sorry, these people, even if you give them to me, I don't want them because they are not worthy. Giving them to me is purely a waste of resources. As for my strength, there will be plenty of time in the future. You will have the chance to see it. After saying that, Qin Feiyang left without looking back and landed in front of the fire python and the demon ancestor. Now, everyone noticed the demon ancestor. Who was this person? They had never seen him before. He seemed to be very strong. Father, Princess Huafeng put away the inheritance. She did not have any nostalgia for the Feng people. She lowered her head to look at the Fire Feng people and said, Father, come with me. I'm very worried about you staying in the Feng people. Okay. The Fire Feng people nodded and landed in front of Princess Huafeng. This made Princess Huafeng a little stunned. She thought that her father would definitely hesitate. Perhaps no matter how she persuaded him, her father would not leave the Feng people, because her father was such a person. No matter what happened, he would not abandon the Feng people. But she never expected that he would be so decisive at this moment. Chapter 3872. What's wrong? The Fire Feng people looked at Princess Wolfing suspiciously. Nothing. I'm just a little surprised. Princess Wolfing came back to her senses and shook her head. Hearing this, the Fire Feng people looked at Feng Ho and the others. Then, he looked at Princess Wolfing and said with a smile, if it was in the past, I definitely wouldn't leave the Feng people. But after experiencing this, I finally understand that no matter status or power, it's actually not as important as family. Hearing this, Princess Wolfing felt a warmth in her heart. In the past, father restrained you too much. You must be under a lot of pressure. But from now on, father won't interfere anymore. You can do whatever you want to do. As for me, I'm tired and old. Now, I just want to find a place to spend the rest of my life. As for the clan leader of the Fire Phoenix clan, whoever wants to be can be the clan leader. The Fire Feng people smiled and took out a space divine item. With a wave of his hand, two figures immediately appeared. They were Pyrotechnic Glow and Xiao Fu. Sister, Princess. When the two of them saw Princess Wolfing, their faces were full of joy. Because the Fire Python blocked the power of the rules here, no matter who it was, they could freely enter and exit the space divine item. You all know what's going on outside, right? The Fire Feng people looked at the two of them and asked. Yes, the two of them nodded. Although they had been in the space divine item all this time, in the hell of the King of Hades, they could hear what was going on outside. Then what do you think? The Fire Feng people asked. Is there a need to think? Wherever you and sister go, I'll go, Pyrotechnic Glow said. Me too. Xiao Fu nodded. The Fire Feng people laughed and waved his hand. The space divine item flew to Feng Ho and said, the clan members and resources of the Fire Phoenix clan are all in here. I'll give them all to you now. Take care of yourself. After saying that, he led his children and the Daifuka brothers towards the opposite mountain peak. Huo Wenchong, are you also going to betray the Feng people? Hua Dahong roared in exasperation. It's not that I want to betray you. It's just that the Feng people can't tolerate us. Father, you're on your own now. The Fire Feng people's chief shook his head and said without turning his head. When Hua Zihue looked at Hua Dahong, his face was filled with disappointment. She had never expected her grandfather to be such a heartless person. Feng Ho, save me. At the same time, Bing Runing, who was imprisoned by the Phoenix Bell, struggled with all her might while calling for help. He didn't know what Qin Feiyang wanted to do. However, with the grudge between her and Qin Feiyang, it was easy to imagine that once she fell into the hands of Qin Feiyang, she would definitely not have a good ending. However, in the face of her call for help, the Feng people were angry but didn't dare to say anything. Now, they didn't even have a sovereign divine weapon. The dragons and Kirins were also watching from the sidelines. They didn't have the ability to resist at all. The Fire Phoenix sword and the group of sovereign divine weapons sighed deeply and left with Princess Wolfeng. Brother Qin, thank you for taking care of my daughter in the Skybell divine treasure. Huo Wenchong landed in front of Qin Feiyang and cupped his hands with a smile. It's my pleasure. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled, asking, Senior, what are your plans from now on? What else can I plan? In terms of strength, I'm not as good as you young people. In terms of wisdom, I'm far inferior to you. And all these years, for the sake of the Feng people, I haven't had a good day's rest. So now, I want to find a quiet place to stay for a while and relax. Huo Wenchong shook his head and smiled. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and smiled. Then why don't you follow me to the Black Tortoise World? Black Tortoise World? Huo Wenchong was stunned. Yes, the Black Tortoise World is not as strong as the Sky Cloud World, but the people there are kind and hospitable. Even if you want to scheme against them, you won't be able to find an opponent. Qin Feiyang smiled. Is it appropriate? Huo Wenchong hesitated. What's wrong with it? Let's go. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Then, he led the group of people and the group of sovereign divine weapons and disappeared without a trace. I envy them. They can live a good life with Qin Feiyong. The white-bearded old man shook his head. Qi Xiaoyun was stunned and he teased, Teacher, if you want to go, you can go any time. I won't stop you. You little brat. The white-bearded old man laughed and looked at the Feng people and sighed. The fate of the Feng people has changed? Yeah. Qi Xiaoyun nodded. She asked for it. The Qilin master snorted and returned to the hall without looking back. Qi Xiaoyun looked at the Qilin master's back and transmitted his voice, Teacher, if I hadn't fused with the law of destruction in the Skybell Divine Treasury, would the same thing have happened? I don't know. The white-bearded old man shook his head. Sigh. The human heart. It's really hard to guess. Qi Xiaoyun sighed and was about to leave. Xiaoyun, come in. But at this moment, the Qilin master's voice sounded in the hall. Qi Xiaoyun's heart trembled as he looked at the white-bearded old man. Don't worry. Compared to the Phoenix Empress, this old ancestor of yours is rather sensible. The white-bearded old man smiled comfortingly. Hearing that, Qi Xiaoyun took a deep breath and entered the hall. What a pity. The opportunity was right in front of him, but he didn't cherish it. If he was a little smarter, the Feng people wouldn't have suffered such a great loss. Instead, they might have even surpassed the dragons and Qilins. A sigh sounded. It was Long Chun. He shook his head and sighed. Then, he turned around and left with the first prince of the dragons. Long Chun, what do you mean by that? Someone from the Feng people heard his words and immediately asked. Long Chun stopped and turned to look at the group of people. He said suspiciously, Don't you understand? Do you think the relationship between your princess and the golden-winged wolf king is enough for you to benefit from it? Her relationship with the golden-winged wolf king? What's their relationship? The Feng people were puzzled. You still don't know? Long Chun was astonished. But after thinking about it, he understood. Based on the Feng people's attitude towards Qin Feiyong and the others, Princess Huafeng definitely wouldn't dare to say it out loud. Let's satisfy your curiosity. Your princess has already gotten together with the golden-winged wolf king. That's all I have to say. Take your time to figure it out. Long Chun smiled faintly and left without looking back. What? She has actually gotten together with the golden-winged wolf king? It's indeed premeditated. She has long wanted to betray the Feng people. Damn it. The Feng people were furious. Long Chun hadn't entered the cave abode yet. He couldn't help but shake his head and sigh when he heard the angry shouts of the group of people. They were indeed a group of hopeless idiots. If Princess Huafeng really wanted to betray them, would she have given the inheritance and the Dominator divine weapon to Feng Ho? Instead of reflecting on herself, she kept blaming others. There was a saying, a pitiful person must have something to hate. This saying was true. The Black Tortoise world, other than Qin Feiyong and the Fire Python, everyone else was still in seclusion. Compared to the scheming and murky world outside, this place was filled with a peaceful atmosphere. This is the Black Tortoise world? Well, Wenchang looked at everything in front of him in amazement. It was also Bing Runing's first time here, but at this moment, she was in no mood to care about anything else. Her face was pale. As for Hua Zihue, he had been to the Black Tortoise world before, so there was nothing new about this place. He swept his shifty eyes over the Devil's Land and asked, Big Brother Qin, where are Brother Frenzy and Boss Wolf? Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned. He looked at Pyrotechnic Glow and joked, Do you miss them that much? Of course. After all, they are two big brothers. Pyrotechnic Glow said without blushing. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes and said, Do you miss them, or the Divine Brew? Pyrotechnic Glow looked at Qin Feiyong in shock. Even this little trick couldn't escape this person's eyes. Princess Huafeng's face also darkened. She slapped Pyrotechnic Glow's forehead and said angrily, What time is it now? You still want a drink? No, this is all nonsense from Qin Dage. Do you really believe it? Pyrotechnic Glow felt wronged. With your little trick, who can you hide it from? Princess Huafeng rolled her eyes at him. Huo Wenchang looked at this scene and couldn't help but smile. It seemed that his precious daughter and son were getting along better with Qin Feiyang's group than he had imagined. Suddenly, Huo Wenchang seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Can you ask Golden-Winged Wolf King to come out now? I want to talk to him." Qin Feiyang and Princess Wuffing immediately looked at Huo Wenchang. Why did he suddenly want to look for the white-eyed wolf? Cough, cough. Daifuku coughed dryly, looked at the two of them and said, "I have already told the patriarch about the princess and the Golden-Winged Wolf King." "You've already told him?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Princess Wuffing was also stunned. A trace of worry crept onto her face as she secretly said, "Daifuku, why are you so talkative? We'll find out sooner or later anyway." Daifuku smiled embarrassedly. Princess Wuffing stared at Daifuku, then looked at Huo Wenchang and said, "Father, listen to my explanation. There's nothing to explain, as long as you're happy." Huo Wenchang shook his head. Princess Wuffing was stunned again. Today, her father had become too easy to talk to. Pyrotechnic glow shouted from the side, "Sis, is this true? Boss Wolf has become my brother-in-law?" "Get lost." Princess Wuffing kicked Pyrotechnic glow, causing him to cry out in pain. Then, she looked at Huo Wenchang and asked carefully, "You really don't object? Daifuku already said that you two like each other and like each other. Why would I object?" Huo Wenchang shook his head. "Thank you, father." Princess Wuffing was overjoyed. She had finally passed her father's test. Now, she only needed to pass her father's test. If it was in the past, besides her father, there was also Hua Dahong, the patriarch, and Feng Ho. Just thinking about it gave her a headache. Don't say it. Leaving the Feng people was also quite good. Because there was no burden, she didn't have to worry about anything anymore. She could do whatever she wanted. "If that's the case, I should change the way I address you as uncle." Qin Feiyang laughed. In his heart, he was sincerely happy for the two of them. Chapter 3873. Qin Dage, I don't understand. It's my sister and big brother Wolf who are in love. Why are you changing your address? Pyrotechnic Glow scratched his head and looked at Qin Feiyang with a puzzled expression. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. "I changed my address to uncle, and White-Eyed Wolf changed his address to father-in-law. How can it be the same? Besides, it's too distant to keep addressing each other as senior." Pyrotechnic Glow was stunned. "That's right." Princess Wuffing sighed helplessly and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Don't talk nonsense with this fool. It'll lower your intelligence. Sister, you're going too far. How can you say that to your own brother? Are all women in love like this?" Pyrotechnic Glow said angrily. Princess Wuffing's veins bulged and she shouted, "Try talking nonsense again." Seeing that the tigress was angry, Pyrotechnic Glow shrunk his neck and said with a smile, "I won't dare. You guys continue. I'll go take a walk." After saying that, he turned around and disappeared. Princess Wuffing was really helpless towards this brother of hers. Huo Wenchang was also helpless. He looked at Qin Feiyang apologetically and said, "Brother Qin, my son is a bit unruly. I hope you can forgive him." "I'm used to it." Qin Feiyang waved his hand. "Used to it?" Huo Wenchang was stunned. "Patriarch, you don't know. His Highness was also like this when he was in the Black Tortoise world, so everyone is used to it. And Qin Feiyang and the others are more casual people. They won't care so much." Daifuku smiled. "So that's how it is." Huo Wenchang suddenly understood. "Father, in the future, you'd better not call him Brother Qin. This is a bit messy." Princess Wuffing lowered her head and smiled embarrassedly. Huo Wenchang looked at Princess Wuffing and was stunned for a moment. He shook his head and smiled. "What's wrong with that? You're in love with the Golden-Winged Wolf King, not Brother Qin. But they are brothers. When the time comes, one will be your son-in-law, and the other will be your brother. What kind of joke is that?" Princess Wuffing was displeased. "Son-in-law? We haven't even gotten married yet, and you're already impatient? My daughter, you were indeed born to belong to another family. You haven't even gotten married, but you're already siding with others." Huo Wenchang shook his head sadly. "When did I?" Princess Wuffing blushed. Huo Wenchang shook his head and laughed. After pondering for a moment, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "How about I call you nephew from now on?" "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. It was just a title. It didn't matter. Huo Wenchang looked at the Daifuku brothers and sighed. "Daifuku, Xiaofu, don't call me patriarch from now on. I'm no longer the patriarch." "Okay, then we'll call you patriarch already." As for the two princes, they'll be young master and young Mississippi. Daifuku smiled slightly. "No need. In the future, you can just call me by my name. After all, I've never treated you as outsiders. And I've always seen how you care for Wu and Zihui. In the past, when we were in Feng people, we had no choice but to follow the rules. But now, it's different. We're alone. From now on, we'll be a family. You can also call Wu and Zihui by their nicknames. Moreover, in terms of age, I have to call you two brothers." Huo Wenchang waved his hand and smiled. Then, Daifuku looked at Huo Wenchang, then at Princess Huofeng. Seeing Princess Huofeng nod slightly, he smiled and said, "All right." Huo Wenchang turned to Qin Feiyang and said, "Nephew, can you let Golden-Winged Wolf King come out now? Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for him." This, Qin Feiyang looked at the ancient castle and shook his head. "He's in seclusion to fuse with the inheritance, so let's not disturb him." Fusing with the inheritance? Huo Wenchang was stunned, then suddenly slapped his head. He remembered that Daifuku said that the blood ancestor had given Golden-Winged Wolf King an ultimate inheritance. He nodded and said, "It's my fault. All right, let's wait until he comes out." Daifuku looked at Princess Huofeng and said, "Wooer, why don't you go into seclusion to fuse with the inheritance first? As for your father, we'll take good care of him." Then, Princess Huofeng looked at the Daifuku brothers and nodded. "All right, then I'll have to trouble you." "No problem." Both of them smiled. Qin Feiyang said, "Uncle, I also have to go into seclusion, so I won't be able to receive you personally." "It's fine." Huo Wenchang waved his hand. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Daifuku and smiled. "You're already familiar with the Black Tortoise world. Bring Uncle around for a stroll. As for your residence, pick one of the courtyards over there. Also, the tea garden has a lot of good tea. If Uncle is bored, you can go there and drink some tea. In short, there's no need to be reserved." And Huo Wenchang and Daifuku nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at the fire python and smiled. "Brother Hua, I don't need to say anything more. Just do as you wish." "Got it. After I fuse with the law miniature, I'll go to other places in the Black Tortoise world." The fire python smiled. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Bing Runing. "What do you want to do?" Bing Runing looked at Qin Feiyang nervously. "No, what do I want to do to you?" "It's him." Qin Feiyang pointed at the demon ancestor beside him. Bing Runing immediately looked at the demon ancestor. The blood ancestor didn't say anything and just smiled. However, in Bing Runing's eyes, that smile was like a demon smiling at her, making her shudder. "You deal with it yourself." Qin Feiyang looked at the demon ancestor and smiled. "All right." The demon ancestor grabbed Bing Runing and left the devil's land without looking back. "Nephew, who is he?" Huo Wenchang looked suspiciously at the demon ancestor's back. "A strong enemy in the past. The future is long. Uncle, take your time to understand." Qin Feiyang smiled and led Princess Huofeng to the ancient castle. The Fire Phoenix sword and the other sovereign divine weapons disappeared into Princess Huofeng's body. "Thank you." Princess Huofeng looked at Qin Feiyang gratefully. "Why are you thanking me?" "I should be thanking you. With you joining us, the Black Tortoise world will become stronger." Qin Feiyang smiled. When first Princess Huofeng heard this, she was silent for a while before she sighed and said, "Although I've left the phoenixes now, I might not be able to kill them." "I understand. Don't worry, I won't let you do such a thing. Besides, do the Feng people need your help now?" Qin Feiyang said domineeringly. Princess Huofeng was stunned and couldn't help but laugh. "That's right. With Qin Feiyang's current means, not to mention the Feng people, even if the Feng people, the Kirin clan, and the dragons joined forces, they wouldn't be able to threaten him." "Oh right. I still don't know your name." Qin Feiyang looked at Princess Wufeng. You finally remembered to ask? Princess Wufeng shook her head speechlessly. After being together for so long, he had never asked for her name. This attitude was really good. She said, Fire dance. Fire dance. Qin Feiyang murmured and smiled. Then, I'll leave the white-eyed wolf to you. Although the white-eyed wolf was unreliable in the past, I can clearly feel the changes in him after being together with you. However, you can't be careless. You have to give him a warning at all times. If he hears this, I'm afraid he'll fall out with you on the spot. Princess Wufeng covered her mouth and laughed. Fall out? Never. Don't be fooled by our usual bickering. But the affection between us is something that no one can shake. Qin Feiyang shook his head. I believe that. Fire Dance nodded, because the white-eyed wolf had already told her about him and Qin Feiyang. They grew up together, and no matter what difficulties they encountered, they had never abandoned each other. This affection was something that even she, as his lover, couldn't replace. Oh right. Later, send your father, Xiao Fu, and your brother the epitome of the laws that they need, Qin Feiyang said again. Thank you. Princess Wufeng was stunned and smiled gratefully again. Sooner or later, we'll be family. What are you thanking me for? Qin Feiyang waved his hand and entered the castle. He walked to the door of the cultivation room and pointed at the cultivation room next to it. This is the white-eyed wolf's cultivation room. You can go to his cultivation room to cultivate in seclusion later. Okay. Princess Wufeng blushed and nodded. After Qin Feiyang handed the epitome to Princess Wufeng, he closed the stone door of the cultivation room and began to focus on fusing the ultimate profundity of the law of light. The Phoenix Empress had only grasped 3 ultimate profundities. As for Qin Feiyang, although he had mastered the ultimate profundity of the law of karma, the ultimate profundity of the law of life and death was enough to compete with the ultimate profundity of a supreme law. Therefore, as long as he fused with the law of light, he wouldn't be weaker than Feng Ho even if he didn't open the eye of heaven. Outside, the Feng people were gone. No one knew where they were hiding and crying secretly. The people of the other forces also returned to their respective cave residences one after another. This matter was bound to become a hot topic of discussion. At the Qilin clan, at the peak of the mountain, in the main hall, Qi Xiaoyun stood in the middle of the hall and looked at the Qilin master, who was sitting on the throne with his head lowered and a nervous expression on his face. What are you nervous about? The Qilin master asked after observing Qi Xiaoyun for a while. Qi Xiaoyun's eyes trembled, and he clenched his teeth. He had to face what he had to face. He looked at the Qilin master and said, Ancestor, I'll be honest. What is it? The Qilin master asked. Qi Xiaoyun smiled bitterly and said, Didn't you already have a premonition? In that case, the sovereign weapons like the Qilin sword have indeed acknowledged you as their master, just like the Feng people's sovereign weapons? The Qilin master asked. Qi Xiaoyun could clearly sense a trace of anger from the Qilin master. He braced himself and nodded. Yes. Then why didn't you tell me earlier? Why did you wait until I asked? The Qilin master asked angrily. Qi Xiaoyun sighed and said, I didn't dare. This is too serious. I was afraid of angering you. But I'm even angrier now. The Qilin master slammed his palm on the armrest, and a terrifying aura surged out. Chapter 3874. Qi Xiaoyun's body trembled, and he hurriedly said, Ancestor, please calm down. This matter is giving me a headache as well. Indeed, he was having a headache. She could have lived an easy and carefree life. However, Qin Feiyang had no choice but to force him to the heart of the struggle. A headache? The Qilin master felt like laughing. He looked at Qi Xiaoyun and said indifferently, Isn't it a good thing for the sovereigns to acknowledge you as their master? Do you know how many people dream of that? Ancestor, please don't laugh at me, said Qi Xiaoyun. Don't you know what kind of person I am? I'm not interested in that at all. Qi Xiaoyun sighed. Wasn't it nice to drink tea and take a stroll? The Qilin master looked at Qi Xiaoyun helplessly. This descendant of his was good at everything. His only flaw was that he stood aloof from worldly affairs and was too indifferent to fame and fortune. Ancestor, To tell you the truth, Qin Feiyang forced me to do this. He made the divine Qilin swords and other sovereigns swear a blood oath to acknowledge me as their master. Do you think he's doing this out of goodwill? No. He's trying to trick me, forcing me to make a choice on behalf of the Qilin race. Qi Xiaoyan shook his head. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. The Qilin master sank into silence. So that was the case. Sigh. Although I was forced to do this, if the ancestor wants to blame me, I am willing to accept any punishment. Qi Xiaoyun sighed. Stop putting on an act with me. The Qilin master rolled his eyes. Qi Xiaoyun smiled awkwardly. After thinking about it for a bit, the Qilin master shook his head and sighed. Looks like Qin Feiyang recognizes your ability. Otherwise, he wouldn't have placed all his bets on you. What ability can I have? Qi Xiaoyun laughed dryly. It's good to be humble, but being too humble is hypocrisy. Others might not know about your ability, but how can I not know? Even without this, the future of the Qilin race will still fall on your shoulders. The Qilin master smiled. Huh. Qi Xiaoyan looked at the Qilin master and asked, Aren't you angry? How can you say something like that? I'm angry because you hid it from me. If you had confessed as soon as you came back, would I have blamed you? The Qilin master glared at him. Sure enough, old ancestor is sensible. You're much better than that Feng Ho. Qi Xiaoyun chuckled. Stop flattering me. The Qilin lord couldn't help but feel helpless. To tell the truth, who could sit still in the face of such a thing? But what was done couldn't be undone. The sovereign's divine weapons had already acknowledged this brat as their master. What else could he do? However, fortunately, whether it was him or his clansmen, this kid was quite sentimental. In layman's terms, it meant that there was no disloyalty. It didn't matter that the sovereign weapon was under his control. Anyway, as long as he wasn't as selfish as Feng Ho, as long as the Qilin clan wasn't as unreasonable as the Feng people, these sovereign divine weapons would still belong to the Qilin clan. Speaking of which, I have to thank Qin Feiyang. The Kirins chuckled. Thank him? Qi Xiaoyun was stunned. Yes. If he hadn't forced you to do so, I don't know when you would have stood up and taken on this responsibility. Just work hard. Regardless of our relationship with Qin Feiyang in the future, at least from this point, it can be seen that he has already regarded you as a worthy opponent. Actually, this is good. After all, the future belongs to you youngsters. It's time for us old fellows to step aside. The Qilin master laughed hoarsely. Qi Xiaoyun was touched by those words. Indeed. It was indeed different to have a sensible senior. If Feng Ho was also a reasonable senior, would Princess Huafeng have betrayed the Feng people? Would the Feng people have fallen to their current state? This was the result of a momentary lapse in judgment. But in truth, I don't want to. Qi Xiaoyan felt helpless. He still yearned for his previous life. He was like a wild crane, carefree and carefree. How nice was that? Everyone has to grow up, said the Qilin master. You are no exception. Moreover, compared to ordinary people, you have more on your shoulders. That's because you were born in such an environment. The Qilin master smiled. Don't you still have father and the patriarchs? In truth, even if the sovereign weapon is in my hands, it won't affect me much, said Qi Xiaoyun. That's right. How can their abilities be compared to yours? Moreover, you have already fused with the ultimate profundity of the law of destruction. You have also obtained the miniature versions of other laws. Your future accomplishments will definitely surpass theirs. The Qilin master smiled confidently. All right, I'll work hard. Qi Xiaoyun nodded. He knew he couldn't escape. That's more like it. A man should take on the responsibility of a man. The Qilin master chuckled. Qi Xiaoyun smiled bitterly and asked, What about the Qilin Holy Sun? The Qilin Holy Sun. The Qilin master pondered for a bit before smiling. You can deal with that yourself. I'll deal with it? Qi Xiaoyun was astonished. Was the Qilin master not doing anything? Ancestor, this isn't right. You should at least give me some time to get used to it. Originally, I guess, I kept the Fire Qilin because I wanted him to integrate with the Qilin race. But in the end, I discovered that I had greatly underestimated his relationship with Qin Feiyang. If he had a choice, he would definitely choose Qin Feiyong without hesitation. Fine. Some things can't be forced. The Qilin master shook his head and sighed. Then why do you want him to stay with the Qilin race? Qi Xiaoyun asked doubtfully. The Qilin race didn't seem to lack a fire Qilin. It's my intuition. This fire Qilin is different from us, said the Qilin master. Qi Xiaoyun frowned. Different? Qi Xiaoyun frowned. He had interacted with the fire Qilin before, but frankly speaking, he couldn't find anything different about it. In the blink of an eye, several years passed. That night, two terrifying auras erupted one after another in the black tortoise world. They were none other than Feng Zi and Qin Feiyong. They had fused with the laws of light and slaughter, so they were faster than the white-eyed wolf and Princess Huofeng. On the same day, the dragons, a terrifying murderous aura, also erupted from a cave abode. It was Long Chun. He had also successfully fused with the law of slaughter. Haha, with 3 ultimate profundities, who else can be my match now? Feng Zi came out of seclusion, and his arrogant laughter resounded throughout the entire black tortoise world. Don't be cocky. With your current strength, you're not even as strong as Feng Ho and the others. Qin Feiyong walked out and angrily glared at him. SK, it's not like I don't have other methods. After I transform, I'll open my blood eye and crush them easily. Feng Zi's face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyong was helpless. Can't you keep a low profile? However, since he had already come to the Nether King's Hell, shouldn't he thoroughly investigate the mystery of Feng Zi's background? But how should he investigate? Suddenly, Qin Feiyong's mind flashed with an idea. He looked at Feng Zi and said, Senior brother, why don't you go to the Moon of Evil to take a look? Look at what? Feng Zi was suspicious. Qin Feiyong asked, in the past, when you touched that blood bead in the Moon of Evil, did an image appear in your mind? Yes, but I couldn't see it clearly. Feng Zi nodded. In the past, I couldn't see it clearly. It might have something to do with your cultivation. And now, you have already grasped the 3 ultimate profundities. Maybe there will be some changes. Qin Feiyong wasn't sure. After all, this kind of thing was not within his scope of understanding. Is that so? Feng Zi frowned. Whether there are gains or not, there's nothing wrong with trying. Qin Feiyong smiled. Feng Zi pondered for a moment and nodded. All right, let's give it a try. The two hit it off, found the fire python, and left the black tortoise world. The fire python had already fused into a miniature, and he had already been traveling in the black tortoise world for a long time. Looking at this vast land, his heart had always been in a state of shock. Of course, the fire python knew about the black tortoise world, because back then, the black tortoise world was on the first level of the miracle. To put it bluntly, the black tortoise world back then was simply a small place, not worth mentioning. But how many years had it been? It had actually become such a huge world. It was full of spiritual essence, rich in natural resources, and countless living creatures lived here. What made him envious the most was the atmosphere here. Calm, peaceful. Although there were countless living beings, killing was extremely rare, as if it was a paradise that stood aloof from worldly affairs. Outside, at this time, it was nighttime. The Moon of Evil hung high in the sky, emitting a hazy bloodlight. The mountains and rivers at night were very quiet. People from various forces were cultivating in seclusion. It's the middle of the night, what do you want to do? Long Chun walked out of the cave and walked towards the 3 with a smile. What does it have to do with you? Feng Zi rolled his eyes at him. Don't be so cold. Maybe I can help? Long Chun chuckled. No need. Feng Zi snorted coldly and raised his head to look at the Moon of Evil with a trace of expectation in his eyes. Long Chun walked to the side of the 3 and followed Feng Zi's gaze. There was a trace of suspicion on his face. Why was Feng Zi looking at the Moon of Evil? Go. Qin Feiyong patted Feng Zi's shoulder encouragingly. Whoosh. Feng Zi took a deep breath and immediately turned into a stream of light, rushing towards the Moon of Evil. Fire Python looked at Feng Zi's back and smiled. If we can really solve the mystery of his origin, I guess that the Nether King Hell might change because of this. Change? Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback and said in surprise, "Could it be that the rule power here is related to the Blood Demon King? That's not it. The restrictions of the Nether King Hell have always existed since ancient times." But Fire Python couldn't help but frown. But what? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Ever since I became the guardian of the Underworld King's Hell, I have been investigating the situation of the Underworld King's Hell. From some clues, I judged that the Underworld King's Hell was not much different from other worlds, even though there were rules and restrictions before the catastrophe. Fire Python said. Chapter 3875. Other aspects? Qin Feiyong was taken aback. That's right. In the past, there was also human civilization living here. Fire Python nodded. Human civilization? Qin Feiyong was shocked. Yes. To tell you the truth, I found many traces left behind by human civilization in the Divine Demon Forest. Fire Python said. Qin Feiyong frowned. That's impossible. I have also been to the Divine Demon Forest, but I didn't see any human civilization. Although you have been there, do you have a comprehensive understanding of the Divine Demon Forest? If I'm not wrong, when you entered the Divine Demon Forest, you went straight to the temple, because with your strength at that time, you didn't have the ability to set foot in the entire Divine Demon Forest. Fire Python laughed. That's true. Qin Feiyong nodded. The Divine Demon Forest was huge. When they entered, what they saw was just the tip of the iceberg. Fire Python suddenly looked at Long Chon and asked, as the son of Lord Ice Dragon, you should be very clear about the situation here. Me? Long Chon was taken aback and smiled bitterly. I'm the same as you. I don't know anything. All right. Fire Python was helpless. Was this guy really Ice Dragon's biological son? Long Chen said unhappily. What kind of look is that? Don't doubt this. He is definitely Ice Dragon's biological son. Fire Python smiled and looked at Qin Feiyong. Feather Emperor definitely knows. Why don't you ask him to come out and help us solve the doubts in our hearts? Let's talk about this later. Let's see how Senior Brother is doing first. Qin Feiyong looked up and focused on the evil moon. At this moment, Frenzy had entered the evil moon. Frenzy was already familiar with everything in the evil moon. Endless evil force surged. To any living being, this was fatal, but to Frenzy, it was like returning to his mother's embrace. Not only did he not feel threatened, but there was also a trace of warmth. Very soon, he entered the center of the evil moon. The blood bead that he hadn't seen for a long time once again entered his sight. It was the size of a palm and seemed to be condensed from blood, emitting a terrifying aura. If you are really related to me, please stop rejecting me and tell me the answer. The madman looked at the blood bead and muttered. He raised his arm and approached the blood bead. What a surprise! This time, not only did the blood bead not repel the madman, it even flew towards the madman and landed in his hand. Boom! There was a loud sound in the madman's mind, and the scene of a battlefield appeared. In the scene, a giant and a dragon were engaged in a frenzied battle. Heaven and earth were destroyed, and all living beings were plunged into misery and suffering. It was a scene of doomsday. This madman was stunned. At this moment, the image that appeared in his mind was no longer blurry. It was incomparably clear. Furthermore, the tearing pain that had been caused by the appearance of the battle scenes did not appear again. He was like a wandering soul, standing in an unfamiliar world, watching everything that was happening before his eyes. Heaven and earth were collapsing. Countless living beings were howling in despair. There were humans and ferocious beasts. This was a complete continent with verdant hills and limpid waters. The scenery was pleasant. However, at this moment, because of the confrontation between the giant and the dragon, it was rapidly heading towards destruction. Could this be the former Nether King Hell? The madman muttered. Why are you so cruel? Are they not living beings? The giant roared in grief as he fought. His eyes were filled with tears of blood, dyeing the world red. The madman looked at the giant. It was covered in blood-red hair like an ancient giant ape. It was exactly the same as the transformed blood demon race. It was more like another him. Looking at the giant's tears of blood, the madman couldn't help but feel anger and sadness. It was as if he was connected to the giant's heart. In the eyes of my divine kingdom, all living beings are ants. Another cold voice sounded. Divine kingdom. The madman clenched his fists and looked at the giant dragon. Because the one who spoke was the giant dragon. He didn't know if he didn't look, but when he looked, his mind buzzed. It was actually a purple gold divine dragon. That's right. It was a purple gold divine dragon. In the past, he couldn't see it clearly and could only see a vague outline. But now, everything was clearly presented in his mind. The purple gold divine dragon was tens of thousands of feet long. Its strength was sky-high. Every dragon scale and drop of dragon blood exuded a world-destroying divine power. Purple gold divine dragon, blood demon king. The madman had an answer in his heart. The giant was the legendary blood demon king. And this purple gold divine dragon, without a doubt, was the leader of the divine nation's experts that the blood ancestor had mentioned back then, who had led the invasion of the lower realm. The blood ancestor had said, back then, a divine kingdom powerhouse led a group of people from the divine kingdom to invade the lower realm. At that time, it was the blood demon king who led the blood demon race to intercept the nether king hell. In the end, not only did the blood demon king die in battle, but the entire blood demon race was almost wiped out. And almost all the powerhouses of the divine kingdom died in battle. Only the leader returned to the divine kingdom with serious injuries. Judging from the scene, there was no doubt that this purple gold divine dragon was the leader. And it was still alive. The bloody battle was still continuing. Ant, what a ridiculous word. All things in the world are equal. Every living being has its value. What right do you have to control the fate of others? As long as I am here today, you can forget about stepping into other continents. The blood demon king roared towards the sky. A blood-colored ancient tower soared into the sky, suppressing all directions. This was the blood demon tower. There were a total of 10 floors, and at the top of the tower, there were 2 palm-sized blood beads that emitted a monstrous bloody light. Sovereign weapon. The madman's eyes trembled. The complete blood demon tower was indeed a sovereign weapon. The blood demon tower charged towards the purple gold divine dragon with the power to destroy the world. Humph! The purple gold divine dragon snorted. A purple gold ancient palace appeared, with countless dragons roaring inside. Divine might filled the sky. This was also a sovereign weapon. Boom! The 2 sovereign weapons collided. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The sun and moon lost their light. The entire Nether King Hell instantly fell into a scene of destruction. The battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. The Nether King Hell was destroyed and all living beings died. Only a few blood demons were left, but they were also on the verge of death. Looking at all of this, the blood demon king smiled bitterly. He had already tried his best, but he was still unable to protect the living beings of the Nether King Hell. Divine Kingdom, sooner or later, you will pay the price for today's actions. The blood demon king burned his own life force and turned into a demon god. He led the blood demon tower and crazily charged towards the purple gold divine dragon. At this moment, the madman, as a bystander, also felt a tragic emotion in his heart. Drops of tears even fell from the corners of his eyes. Boom! With the collision between the blood demon king and the purple gold divine dragon, everything finally came to an end. The blood demon king died on the spot. The blood demon tower was also torn apart. The purple gold divine dragon also let out a miserable cry. Its body was shattered, and its divine soul was annihilated. The purple gold ancient palace also shattered on the spot. Blood demons, just you wait. The next time the divine kingdom descends, your race will be exterminated. However, the purple gold divine dragon's divine soul wasn't completely annihilated. Only a trace of it was left. After leaving behind a murderous sentence, it escaped with the broken ancient palace. I didn't expect that the battle back then would be so tragic. The madman murmured, "That's right. This is that battle." Suddenly, a voice sounded. Who? The madman was startled. Before his voice fell, A blood-red figure rushed out from the blood bead in his hand and floated in front of him. "You are?" The madman looked at the blood shadow opposite him in surprise. "I am the artifact spirit of the Blood Demon Tower." The blood shadow said. "Artifact spirit?" The madman was stunned. "Yes." The blood shadow nodded. "Artifact spirit?" The madman's face was full of surprise. Didn't the Blood Demon Tower already have an artifact spirit? Why did another one jump out? Because the Blood Demon Tower had always been by his side and had communicated with the artifact spirit more than once. The other artifact spirit is also me. Back then, I was divided into two. Half of my consciousness was in the Blood Demon Tower, and the other half was in this Blood Demon bead. The blood shadow explained. "Then why didn't you tell me this?" The madman frowned. "Because you haven't grown up yet and don't have the ability to shoulder this heavy burden. But it's different now. You have already grasped 3 ultimate mysteries. In terms of strength, you have surpassed your previous life because in your previous life, you only grasped 1 ultimate law." The blood shadow smiled in relief. Previous life? The madman was stunned for a moment and looked at the blood shadow in shock. "Don't tell me that I am the reincarnation of the Blood Demon King?" "Yes." The blood shadow nodded. "Damn." The madman cursed. He was actually such an amazing person. The blood shadow hesitated for a moment and looked at the madman. "Don't be proud too early. Now, you have to face 2 choices." "What choices?" The madman was suspicious. The blood shadow said, "The first choice is to inherit the memories and law inheritance of your previous life." "What? The memories and law inheritance of my previous life?" The madman was stunned. "Yes. When you died, I sealed your memories and the ultimate profundities of the law of destruction that you grasped in this blood demon orb. As long as you are willing, you can fuse your memories and this inheritance now." The blood shadow smiled. "The ultimate law of destruction," the madman muttered and shouted. "Is there even a need to say this? Of course, this daddy is willing. Don't dawdle. Hurry up." Cough, cough. The blood shadow coughed and said helplessly, "Don't be anxious. Let me finish. If you really fuse with the memories of your previous life, this may affect your relationship with Qin Feiyang." "What does fusing with the memories of my previous life have to do with old Qin?" The madman was suspicious. "Because Qin Feiyang is the descendant of the purple gold divine dragon, and your previous life hated the divine kingdom and the purple gold divine dragon to the bone. Therefore, if you fuse with the memories of your previous life, it may have a certain impact on you." The blood shadow explained. "You mean, after fusing with the memories of my previous life, I will hate old Qin?" The madman asked. "Yes." The blood shadow nodded. "Impossible. I know old Qin's situation better than anyone else. Even if he has the bloodline of the purple gold divine dragon, it won't have any impact." The madman waved his hand with a confident look. Chapter 3876. "Are you sure?" Blood Shadow asked. "I'm sure." Madman nodded, but after speaking, he hesitated and asked, "What about the second choice?" "The second choice is, of course, to give up the memories and inheritance of your previous life. This way, you won't be affected by the memories of your previous life and will still be as close as brothers with Qin Feiyang," Blood Shadow said. Madman nodded and asked, "Then I can't just take the inheritance and not the memories of my previous life?" "No. The situation was urgent, so I fused the inheritance and memories together." Blood Shadow shook his head. "Why are you so unreliable?" Madman was speechless. "Can you blame me for this? You saw it just now. When your previous life's Blood Demon King was about to die, I almost couldn't even protect myself. To be able to keep your inheritance and memories in such a dangerous situation is already very difficult. Do you understand?" Blood Shadow said angrily. Madman smiled embarrassedly. After pondering for a while, he said with a firm gaze, "I must take the inheritance, and I will definitely not lose old Qin as a friend. Don't worry. Don't be so confident. Fusing the memories of your previous life isn't as simple as you think. At that time, there might even be a split personality. Blood Shadow warned. Split personality? The corner of Madman's mouth twitched. With a dark expression, he said, "Can you not scare me? My feelings for old Sheen. Pooey pooey pooey. He isn't even a girl. What feelings do I have? In short, my friendship with old Sheen will never change. Since you are so confident, then I won't say anything else. Anyway, you just have to be mentally prepared." After Blood Shadow finished speaking, he immediately disappeared into the blood bead. Then, the blood bead rose into the air and entered between Madman's eyebrows. Boom! A huge amount of information suddenly exploded in Madman's mind. "Old Sheen, don't worry about me. I am fine now. Go do what you need to do." Madman shouted and sat cross-legged. He closed his eyes and accepted the memories and inheritance of his previous life. What's the situation? Below, Qin Feiyong and Fire Python exchanged glances. Long Chen asked, "Why don't we go and take a look?" "Don't go." Qin Feiyong hurriedly stopped him. Madman had already said that he was fine, so why bother? Furthermore, what if the madman had obtained some good fortune and caught Long Chen's attention? That would be bad. Qin Feiyong's vigilance made Long Chen feel rather helpless. In the current situation, there was really no need to guard against him like this. The Fire Python asked, "When do you plan to return to the Sky Cloud realm?" Qin Feiyong looked at Long Chen. Long Chen shrugged and said, "I can do it any time." In any case, he meant to let Qin Feiyong make the decision. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment. It was indeed time to go back, because the God-slaying tablet was still waiting to transcend its tribulation. But once he went back, he would definitely face the experts of the Divine Kingdom. Furthermore, the Blaze Magic Sword had not been repaired yet. So, he was not confident about going back now. "I'll go to the Black Tortoise realm first." After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyong looked at Long Chen and said something. Then, he instantly disappeared without a trace. Long Chen also looked up at the evil moon again and murmured, "What the hell is going on?" At the same time, the Fire Python looked at Long Chen. It seemed to have something to say, but didn't dare to say it. "What do you want to say?" Long Chen noticed the Fire Python's abnormality and turned his head to ask, "Ahem, can I ask you for a favor?" The Fire Python asked, "What favor?" Long Chen was suspicious. "You are the son of Lord Ice Dragon. You can definitely say something. Can you ask Lord Ice Dragon to remove the restrictions of the rules of hell?" The Fire Python's face was full of pleading. "Remove the restrictions of the rules?" Long Chen was taken aback. "Yes. The creatures of hell, no matter how they cultivate, their cultivation can only reach the 9th heaven realm. They can't reach the undead realm. This is really pitiful." The Fire Python sighed. "So that's how it is." Long Chen suddenly understood and said with a smile, "You're quite kind as a guardian." This was because guardians generally gave people the impression that they were high and mighty and looked down on creatures like ants. Not at all. Anyway, I'm just putting myself in your shoes. The Fire Python shook its head. Long Chen asked, "Then according to what you said, the restrictions here were set by my father?" "I don't know about that. But even if it's not Lord Ice Dragon must have a way." The Fire Python's face was full of expectation. Long Chen thought for a while and shook his head. "I can't guarantee anything. I can only tell you that I'll try my best. After all, I don't have much say in my father's words. Besides, my father is not omnipotent. Anyway, don't get your hopes up. Besides, since there are restrictions in a place, there must be a reason for its existence." Long Chen added. "Yes, thank you." The Fire Python nodded and smiled gratefully. Whoosh! Qin Feiyong came out. Along with him were the Feather Emperor, the Little Rabbit, and the Blood Ancestor. Qin Feiyong entered the Black Tortoise realm because of the little brat. How long would it take for the Blaze Magic Sword to be repaired? The answer he got made him feel extremely helpless. The little brat said that even in the land of origin, it would take at least 100 years for the Blaze Magic Sword to be restored to its peak state. How could he afford to wait 100 years? Therefore, he found the Little Rabbit, the Feather Emperor, and the Blood Ancestor to discuss. The four of them discussed for a while and decided to go back to the Sky Cloud realm to take a look. It seems that this little lunatic has already decided. The Feather Emperor looked up at the evil moon and shook his head with a smile. Decided? Qin Feiyong was stunned. You'll know in the future. The Feather Emperor did not explain. Qin Feiyong was full of helplessness. When it came to keeping people in suspense, one was better than the other. He asked, "What kind of place is the former Nether King's Hell?" The former Nether King's Hell. The Feather Emperor pondered for a while and sighed. Apart from the rules and restrictions, everything else is the same as other continents. There were countless humans and ferocious beasts, but now they're all history. All of this was caused by the Divine Kingdom. When he said the last sentence, a cold light surged in the Feather Emperor's eyes. The Divine Kingdom. How crazy are these people? Qin Feiyong couldn't help but clench his hands. The Blood Ancestor looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "The damage that the Divine Kingdom caused to the Sky Cloud Realm and the Nether King's Hell can never be repaired. Therefore, from now on, you can't show mercy to anyone from the Divine Kingdom." Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. Then let's go. It's been more than 10 years. It's time to go back and take a look. The little rabbit said. Long Chun took out the badge and opened a space-time passage. The few of them walked in one after another, but the fire python didn't go and stayed on the mountain peak. Did they return to the Sky Cloud Realm? There won't be any danger, right? Don't worry, the Feather Emperor, Blood Ancestor, and the little rabbit. Even if there is danger, it shouldn't be a problem to protect themselves. When the various major forces noticed the situation here, they all felt a little nervous. Because whether they can return to the Sky Cloud Realm or not depends on the ability of Qin Feiyong and the others. If even Qin Feiyong and the others can't stop the powerhouses of the Divine Kingdom, then they can only hide in the Nether King's Hell forever. Boom. But just as the space-time passage disappeared, a terrifying aura erupted from a mountain. A figure rushed into the sky and went straight for the evil moon. Feng Ho, what are you doing? The fire python's face changed and shouted, "It's none of your business, get lost." Feng Ho coldly shouted, and the power of law surged all over her body. Obviously, she knew that Madman was inside. Although she didn't know what Madman was doing inside, it was a great opportunity for her. But to her, this was an excellent opportunity because if Qin Feiyong and the others left, there would be no one to help the Madman. In short, she wanted to take the opportunity to kill Madman. However, before she could even get close, a wave of evil energy appeared and rushed towards her from all directions. Humph! Feng Ho coldly snorted, and the ultimate profundities of the law of destruction and the law of space appeared and attacked the evil force. With a loud bang, the evil force was annihilated. Despicable, the fire python said angrily. However, he couldn't interfere in a battle of this level. Phoenix Queen, you're fucking courting death. Madman's shout sounded in the evil moon. But before Madman could make a move, a young man in white walked out of a cave. It was Qi Xiaoyun. He stepped into the sky, looked at the evil moon, and said with a smile, "Brother Emo, don't worry and enter seclusion. Leave her to me." Qi Xiaoyun's action was equivalent to making a decision. Qi Xiaoyun, what are you doing? Feng Ho turned and glared at Qi Xiaoyun. Qi Xiaoyun sighed and said, Feng Ho, stop. People who don't know you will think that you are a mad dog. You are courting death. Feng Ho's killing intent rose, and she immediately attacked Qi Xiaoyun with two ultimate profundities. Sigh. Qi Xiaoyun sighed. With a wave of his hand, the Qilin Divine Sword and other sovereign weapons appeared. Terrifying divine might surged out like a torrent, and the two ultimate profundities were shattered. You! Feng Ho looked at this scene in shock and anger. The sovereign weapons of the Qilin clan were all in this person's hands? Qi Xiaoyun smiled and said, the current me can represent the entire Qilin clan. You? The entire Qilin clan? Feng Ho couldn't believe it. That's right. Qi Xiaoyun nodded. Qi Xiaoyun, who gave you the guts to say such words? At this time, Qi Xiong, Qi Yefeng, and the other patriarchs appeared and glared at Qi Xiaoyun. They were still unaware of the conversation between the Qilin master and Qi Xiaoyun. Thus, in their opinion, Qi Xiaoyun's words were disgraceful. As for Qi Xiaoyun's father, Qi, the patriarch of the fire-chilling clan, he also walked out of the cave. However, he did not interfere. As Qi Xiaoyun's father, he was naturally aware of Qi Xiaoyun's situation. If it was in the past, he would definitely stand behind Qi Xiaoyun and become his backer. But things were different now. Qi Xiaoyun was now stronger than him. Moreover, Qi Xiaoyun had the support of the ancestor of the Qilin clan. Naturally, Qi Xiaoyun no longer needed him. Second uncle, stop messing around. Qi Xiaoyun lowered his head and shook his head. I'm messing around? Qi Xiong was furious. He glared at Qi Ji and said, Aren't you going to teach your son a lesson? However, Qi Ji merely smiled faintly. Chapter 3877. Qi Xiong was infuriated by Qi Ji's attitude. Although he was Qi Ji's brother, and Qi Xiaoyun was his nephew, he had always disliked Qi Ji and his father. He believed that, in terms of strength and ability, Qi Ji was no weaker than his elder brother. But in the end, the patriarch position of the fire-chilling clan had fallen into Qi Ji's hands. That made him feel very uneasy. As for Qi Xiaoyun, he had displayed outstanding talent since he was young. Although he usually kept a low profile, he was deeply liked by the Qilin clan's master. Whenever there was something good, he would not be forgotten. On the other hand, his son, Qiyu, was different. Although he was known as the young genius of the Qilin clan, his treatment was worlds apart from Qi Xiaoyun's. In short, he was jealous. Second uncle, go back and cultivate. Qi Xiaoyun was rather annoyed when he saw Qi Xiong. This was the reason why he had always disliked fighting for fame and fortune. As long as fame and fortune were involved, even family members would treat you as an enemy. Although his second uncle did not like him much in the past, he still knew how to act on the surface. Normally, when they met, he would more or less pretend to be concerned. But now, he could not even be bothered to act on the surface. Whether it was his hatred for him or his father, he could no longer hide it. What? Are you trying to order me around? Qi Xiong looked at Qi Xiaoyun coldly. How is this an order? I'm begging you. Don't meddle in other people's business. Qi Xiaoyun felt helpless. Meddling in other people's business? What about you? What does what Feng Ho does have to do with you? You actually dare to speak on behalf of the Qilin clan? Who do you think you are? Even elders like us are not qualified to speak like that, let alone you. Qi Xiong retorted. Qi Yefeng and the other patriarchs also had cold expressions on their faces. Qi Xiaoyun glanced at them and shook his head. Looks like it's impossible to reason with you. Boom. As he said that, a destructive force surged out. Qi Xiaoyun's temperament changed greatly with the appearance of the destructive force. His gaze and aura became incomparably sharp. What are you trying to do? Don't tell me I'm going to be like some people and go against my superiors? Qi Xiong and the others were shocked. They knew that Qi Xiaoyun had already fused with an ultimate profundity of the law of destruction. With Qi Xiaoyun's current strength, he could easily suppress them even without using a sovereign weapon. As for the someone, she was naturally referring to Princess Wufeng. Go back immediately. Don't make me repeat myself. Qi Xiaoyun's cold gaze was as sharp as a blade, causing everyone to feel a chill in their hearts. Even Feng Ho was looking at Qi Xiaoyun in shock, let alone Qi Xiong and the others. She naturally knew about Qi Xiaoyun. In the past, the impression Qi Xiaoyun gave others was that he was a young man who stood aloof from worldly affairs. But now, he was like a completely different person, showing off his abilities, full of drive. It was like a dazzling star. This should be Qi Xiaoyun's true nature. Go back immediately. Don't make me repeat myself. These words echoed in the void for a long time. This was already a commanding tone. Although Qi Xiaoyun was giving Qi Xiong and the others a great pressure, they did not back down because they were his elders. So what if he had grasped the ultimate profundity of the law of destruction? Would he really dare to make a move on his elders in public? If he dared to do so, not only would others talk about him behind his back, even the ancestor would not let him off easily. Sigh. Qi Xiaoyun sighed deeply. Did he really have to disown his own family if he wanted to shoulder this responsibility? To be honest, he really did not want to make a move on his elders. But sometimes, He had no choice. Xiaoyun, do you know why the ancestor is still not doing anything? Suddenly, Qi Ji's voice rang out in Qi Xiaoyun's mind. Qi Xiaoyun raised his head and looked at the great hall at the peak of the mountain. With such a huge commotion, the ancestor was definitely aware of it. Since the ancestor had not done anything, it was obvious he wanted to give Qi Xiaoyun a chance to establish his dominance. If he wanted the Qilin clansmen to trust him, he would first have to make the patriarchs submit. In other words, the ancestor wanted him to make a move on the patriarchs to establish his dominance. Looks like the ancestor is determined to be a hands-off boss. Qi Xiaoyun sighed helplessly. He lowered his head and looked at Qi Xiong and the others. His eyes instantly turned cold. Boom. The next moment, the heavenly eye of destruction erupted with a world-destroying might. 10 rays of world-destroying light shattered the sky and shot toward Qi Xiong and the others. What? Qi Xiong and the others did not expect that Qi Xiaoyun would really dare to make a move on them. In a moment of desperation, they all activated their profundities. However, their strength was not even comparable to the reclusive old antiques. The strongest technique they had was the profundities of supreme profundities. How could they be a match for the ultimate profundities of supreme profundities? Boom! Accompanied by a series of loud bangs, the profundities of various laws were instantly shattered like withered trees. Next, 10 rays of world-destroying light drowned Qi Xiong and the others. Accompanied by miserable screams, everyone was instantly turned into a bloody mess. Their sea of qi was shattered, and even their souls were severely injured. An aura of death enveloped them. At this moment, they panicked inwardly. This junior, who had always followed the rules and stood aloof from worldly affairs, was not joking with them at all. Ancestor. The group of people shouted in panic. Currently, only the Qilin clan's master had the ability to stop Qi Xiaoyun. As for the reclusive old antiques, even if all of them showed up, it would be useless. However, the Qilin master did not appear. He did not even respond. What's going on? Could it be that the ancestor is in seclusion? The group of people was bewildered. At the same time, they were extremely terrified. Qi Xiaoyun looked on silently. Qi Xiaoyun, what are you doing? Although you are strong now, you can't attack your elders. Stop, or else. Although the Qilin master did not appear, the group of reclusive old antiques could no longer sit still. They all came out to scold Qi Xiaoyun. Or else what? Qi Xiaoyun looked at the old antiques coldly. The scolding stopped abruptly. Looking at the current Qi Xiaoyun, the group of old antiques could not help but feel fear in their hearts. Qi Xiaoyun said, "Stand aside obediently. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." What did you say? Impolite to us? Do you still know how to respect the old and cherish the young? The group of old antiques was instantly infuriated. So it was true that after grasping the ultimate profundity, one could do whatever they wanted. Noisy. Qi Xiaoyun waved his hand, and one apocalyptic radiance after another fell, drowning the reclusive old antiques. Miserable shrieks rang out once again. Blood dyed the sky red. Damn. So this is the prince of the Fire Qilin clan? His ferocity is not inferior to that of Qin Feiyong and the others. The people of the various factions were moved. The sleeping lion has finally awakened. In the future, there will be another peerless genius among the younger generation of the Skycloud realm. Those of the older generation were also muttering in their hearts. Qi Xiaoyun's ruthless side shocked everyone present. Although the patriarch and the old antiques of the Qilin clan did not die in the end, this ability had left a shadow in their hearts. Of course, Qi Xiaoyun would not kill them for real. Moreover, more importantly, the Qilin master did not appear at all. No one was stupid. With such a big commotion, even if the Qilin master was in seclusion, he must have been awakened by it. The reason he did not appear was actually a tacit agreement. The Phoenix Empress had naturally thought of this as well. Looking at Qi Xiaoyun's domineering attitude, she knew that it was impossible to kill Madman, so she turned around and left angrily. Of course she was angry. The alliance of the three clans was supposed to deal with Qin Feiyong. But now, the Dragon King sat by and did nothing. The Qilin master was even more excessive. He directly handed over the power of the Qilin clan to Qi Xiaoyun and became a shopkeeper. After a contest, although the dragons and the Qilin clan also lost some sovereign divine weapons, compared to the Feng people who lost all their sovereign divine weapons and lost face, it was many times better. Therefore, in Feng Ho's heart, not only did she hate Qin Feiyang and the others, but she also hated the dragons and the Qilin clan. At the same time, the Skycloud realm, the Skycloud Sea was unprecedentedly calm. White Crane Island. This island that no longer existed was quite famous in the current Skycloud realm. That was because too many battles had taken place here. At this moment, above the sea, a group of people stood facing the wind. It was Qin Feiyang, Long Qin, Feather Emperor, Blood Ancestor, and the Little Rabbit. Why are we here? Qin Feiyang glanced at the surrounding sea and asked suspiciously. Long Chun smiled and said, as expected, there must be experts from the Divine Kingdom guarding Skycloud Island at this moment, so we have to avoid them. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang turned to look at the Little Rabbit. The Little Rabbit waved its paw, and an image appeared in the void in front of it. The scene displayed was Skycloud Island. Sure enough, at the peak of Skycloud Island, a golden figure was sitting cross-legged. It was the middle-aged man in golden armor who chased them back then. Qin Feiyang glanced at the middle-aged man in golden armor, then looked at Long Chun and said with a smile, "Quite clever." Long Chun was speechless. "Listening to what you said, it seems that in your eyes before, I was a fool?" Qin Feiyang smiled and turned to look in the direction of the land of buried gods. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he looked at Feather Emperor and the other two and said, "Now he's alone on Skycloud Island. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Why don't we kill him first?" "How can it be so simple?" The Little Rabbit rolled its eyes at him. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The Little Rabbit said in a deep voice, "On the surface, he's alone. But do you know if there are others hiding in his spatial divine item? It doesn't matter. As long as the Lord of the Divine Kingdom doesn't come in person, I think with our current means, it should be enough to crush everything." Long Qin also spoke. It was a bit sullen to keep hiding like this. It was better to have a big fight. Chapter 3878. The Feather Emperor hesitated and shook his head. "I think it's better not to provoke them." The Blood Ancestor and the Little Rabbit nodded in agreement. Ahem. Long Chun coughed and looked at the three of them. "Although what I'm about to say is a bit disrespectful, I can't help but want to say it. Now that you've been driven out of your homeland, you still don't dare to attack. This seems a bit beneath your status as leaders." The Feather Emperor, the Blood Ancestor, and the Little Rabbit immediately glared at Long Chun. I think so too. Aren't you a bit too afraid of the Divine Kingdom?" Qin Feiyang said with a dry smile. "Brat, who are you looking down on?" The Feather Emperor looked at Qin Feiyang angrily. No. I just feel that being so timid is not the way to solve the problem." Qin Feiyang smiled. The Feather Emperor raised his eyebrows. "Alas, maybe we're really old." But suddenly, the Blood Ancestor shook his head and sighed. The Feather Emperor and the Little Rabbit couldn't help but look at the Blood Ancestor. Thinking back, we only mastered one ultimacy and dared to fight with the Divine Kingdom. Now, our strength is not what it used to be, but we are still timid. To be honest, we really need to reflect." The Blood Ancestor looked at the two of them and sighed. The Feather Emperor and the Little Rabbit heard this and fell silent for a while. They couldn't help but smile bitterly. Yes, back then, they had the courage to face the experts of the Divine Kingdom, but now they were like cowards. As Long Chun said, they were the leaders of the Skycloud realm. If even they were like this, could the Skycloud realm still be saved? One couldn't lose their courage. As a leader, one had to shoulder the responsibility of a leader. Phew. The Feather Emperor took a deep breath and looked up at the middle-aged man in golden armor. His eyes instantly became sharp and he said, "We can't always live in their shadow. Yes, today is different from the past. We're not weak now." The Blood Ancestor nodded. His previous fear had disappeared. and his gaze was as sharp as a blade. Little Rabbit glanced at the two people and said with a chuckle, "Either way, we'll have to face them sooner or later. Then let's go all out and fight." Qin Feiyong and Long Chun looked at each other when they heard this. Their dormant fighting spirit was gradually awakened. However, Feiyong, don't be in a rush to attack. Furthermore, you must conceal your purple gold dragon bloodline's bloodline power properly. Unless absolutely necessary, you must not expose it. Feather Emperor looked at Qin Feiyong and instructed, "We do need to pay attention to this. First of all, the Master of the Divine Kingdom doesn't know that the Princess of the Divine Kingdom and the Human Emperor already have a child. Given the pride of the ruler of the Divine Kingdom, once he learns of this, he will definitely be furious. Secondly, you are a trump card. We have to save you for the crucial moment." The little rabbit nodded. "Then what's the point?" Qin Feiyong was displeased. The blood ancestor said angrily, "You think this is a game? This is war, not a joke. You have to listen to us." Okay, I'll listen." Qin Feiyong was helpless. The little rabbit looked at Long Chun and said, "And you? Although we don't know how strong you are, as the son of the ice dragon, you certainly don't lack powerful trump cards. Therefore, we also hope that you can preserve your strength for the time being. Can I take this as your concern for me?" Long Chun was stunned and asked with a smile, "Up to you." The little rabbit waved her paw. The Feather Emperor shook his head and smiled. He looked at Long Chun and said, "Now, regardless of our identities, we are all members of the Sky Cloud realm. Young people like you are the hope of the future. Therefore, you have to work hard." Long Chun looked at the Feather Emperor, the blood ancestor, and the little rabbit. Suddenly, he was somewhat envious of Qin Feiyong. No matter what kind of environment he was in, there would always be a group of elders who cared about him. This kind of warmth was irreplaceable by anything. If only his father could care about him like this, how good would that be? The Feather Emperor took a few deep breaths and looked up at the middle-aged man in golden armor. He sneered and said, "Are you waiting for us? Watch how we catch you off guard. Let's go." The little rabbit immediately led the four people and descended in the sky above the Sky Cloud realm. Boom! The blood ancestor immediately attacked. The death law, time law, and slaughter law's ultimate profoundness instantly appeared. The terrifying aura shattered the sky and stirred the sea for hundreds of millions of miles. The middle-aged man in golden armor was startled. He immediately opened his eyes and looked up. When he saw Qin Feiyong and the others, his thick black eyebrows suddenly raised. "Die." The blood ancestor grinned hideously. Generally speaking, such a sudden attack would definitely cause one to panic and be unable to react in time. However, the middle-aged man in golden armor was calm. There was even a trace of disdain in his eyes. Just as the three ultimate profoundness arrived in front of the middle-aged man in golden armor, a terrifying divine power surged out from the middle-aged man's body. Following closely, lightning emerged one after another. This aura, be careful, it's the aura of the thunder battle armor. Qin Feiyong's pupils shrank. As expected, the next moment, a purple gold battle armor appeared on the middle-aged man's body. Lightning swept in all directions. It was the thunder battle armor of the red-haired old man. "Is this the armor of the mid-level sovereign divine weapon that you mentioned?" The Feather Emperor was surprised. "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded and said in a deep voice, "The thunder battle armor is on this person. The thunder battle axe might also be in his hands. You must be careful." As he spoke, the three ultimate profoundness with monstrous power drowned the middle-aged man in golden armor. Even the indestructible Sky Cloud Island was instantly shattered. The surrounding waves surged, covering the sky and the sun. "I was worried about not being able to find you. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me." The middle-aged man in golden armor's voice sounded in the dust. Clang! Accompanied by a deafening sound, a sharp light emerged and turned into a wave, tearing the sky and splitting the earth as it charged toward the blood ancestor. "It is indeed on him. Retreat." Qin Feiyong's expression changed as he retreated with lightning speed. The blood ancestor, Long Chun, the Feather Emperor, and the little rabbit didn't dare to be negligent. They were extremely annoyed. They didn't expect to encounter two mid-level sovereign divine weapons. Two mid-level sovereign divine weapons are not to be trifled with. Celestial Sword, go help, Long Chun whispered. Don't expose Celestial Sword yet. Qin Feiyang stopped Long Chun and shook his head. Celestial Sword was also a mid-level sovereign divine weapon. It could be said that it was the trump card of the Sky Cloud realm. It had to be saved at the critical moment to surprise the enemy with a fatal blow. Long Chun turned and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Don't worry. Now, Fire Dance, Azure Dragon, and the Sea Lion Emperor are all in the Black Tortoise realm. We have enough strength to contend with these two mid-level sovereign divine weapons. Qin Feiyang said. At the same time, in the Black Tortoise realm, above the Devil's Land, Qin Feiyang's voice sounded. Fire Dance, Senior Azure Dragon, Yun Ziang, lend me your sovereign divine weapons. Hearing this voice, everyone who was in seclusion opened their eyes. What was going on? He wanted to borrow their sovereign divine weapons? Could it be Qin Feiyang had already killed his way back to the Sky Cloud realm? Thinking of this, everyone's face sank. They immediately took out their respective sovereign divine weapons. Outside, terrifying sharpness rolled in. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the sovereign divine weapons of the Land of Buried Gods, including the Yin-Yang Mirror and Princess Huafeng's sovereign divine weapon, appeared. Why did he only summon the Land of Buried Gods and Princess Huafeng's sovereign divine weapon? This was because when they fought with the blood-red clothed old man last time, only these sovereign divine weapons appeared. The Divine Kingdom's foundation was unfathomable. If they could hide their strength, they would do so. In short, they couldn't expose their full strength to the Divine Kingdom too early. When the Blood Ancestor saw the sovereign divine weapons appear, he immediately took out the Demon Vanquishing Staff and the Illusory Demon Orb. Although the sovereign divine weapons had been damaged when they fought with the red-haired old man, they weren't too serious. Thus, they had been repaired in the Black Tortoise realm for the past few years. The Land of Buried Gods had 8 sovereign divine weapons. Princess Huafeng had 11 sovereign divine weapons. In addition to the Yin-Yang Mirror, the Illusory Demon Orb, and the Demon Vanquishing Staff, there were a total of 21 sovereign divine weapons. The Blood Ancestor waved his hand, and the 21 sovereign divine weapons awakened. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions, and the sharpness that surged toward them instantly shattered the void. Just as Old Wu said, there are quite a few sovereign divine weapons, but that's all. This time, I won't give you any chance to turn the tables. After all, this isn't a training trip. The golden-armored middle-aged man stepped into the air. Wearing thunder armor and holding a thunder axe, he looked like a god. He looked at the Yin-Yang Mirror and the sovereign divine weapons with disdain in his eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, a sword light swept out from his body. As soon as this sword light appeared, heaven and earth trembled. This is, the Blood Ancestor, the Little Rabbit, and the Feather Emperor were shocked. This is the sword light we were talking about, Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. According to the Divine Kingdom's princess, this sword light came from the Divine Kingdom's sovereign divine weapon. And the Divine Kingdom's sovereign divine weapon was a high-grade sovereign divine weapon. He used his most terrifying trump card right off the bat. It seemed like this person was right. The Divine Kingdom hadn't come to train the younger generation. Instead, they had come to kill them. All of this was because the princess of the Divine Kingdom had fallen in love with the human emperor and betrayed the Divine Kingdom. Die! The golden-armored middle-aged man waved his hand, and the sword light annihilated the sky as it attacked the Yin-Yang Mirror and the other sovereign divine weapons. Although the sovereign divine weapons had been fully awakened, they seemed particularly small in the face of this sword light. Just as the sword light collided with the sovereign divine weapons, the golden-armored middle-aged man smiled coldly. With the thunder axe in his hand, he instantly charged in front of Qin Feiyang and the others. Retreat! The Feather Emperor roared, looking very flustered. But in fact, whether it was the Feather Emperor or Qin Feiyang and the others, they were extremely calm. Their panicked appearance was just an act. It was to make the golden-armored middle-aged man think that they were at the end of their rope. Without these sovereign divine weapons, let's see how you fight back. The golden-armored middle-aged man sneered and attacked with the thunder axe. Seeing that Qin Feiyang and the others were about to die, the blood ancestor suddenly laughed and said, "Do you think we only have these sovereign divine weapons? If we only have these sovereign divine weapons, do you think we would dare to return to the Sky Cloud realm?" As his voice fell, the sword of Thanatos and the other sovereign divine weapons that had been waiting in the Black Tortoise realm all attacked in an instant. There were more than 20 sovereign divine weapons. It crushed everything in its path. What? The golden-armored middle-aged man's body stiffened. He had thought that as long as the sword light restrained the yin-yang mirror and the other sovereign divine weapons, the thunder axe would be able to easily kill these people. But he had never imagined that the other party would have so many sovereign divine weapons. Sorry, I have something to do today, so I can only update 2 chapters. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.